The old man begged for his life on his knees in the snow. Raymond Garrett pressed the gun barrel against Thomas Wilder's forehead and smiled. "You should have stayed quiet, Tom. 30 years keeping your mouth shut, and now you want to talk. Quiet. My son, he doesn't know anything. Please, leave him out of this." "Your son is the reason we're here." Garrett cocked the hammer. "You wrote him letters. You drew him maps. You built him a cabin full of evidence that could destroy everything I've built." Thomas closed his eyes. "He'll find it. Even if you kill me, he'll find it." "Then I'll kill him too." The gunshot echoed across the mountains. Thomas Wilder's body tumbled over the cliff edge and disappeared into the gorge below. 3 days later, the county coroner ruled it a hiking accident. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. Subscribe and follow this story to the end. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. The phone call came at 3:47 in the morning. Nathan Wilder had been dreaming about his father again, the same dream he'd had for 30 years. His dad walking out the front door with a suitcase, turning back once to look at 8-year-old Nathan, standing in the hallway, then climbing into his truck and driving away forever. In the dream, Nathan always tried to run after him. In the dream, his legs never worked. The phone shattered the nightmare. "Mr. Wilder, this is Sheriff Davis from Ridgemont County, Montana. I'm sorry to inform you that your father, Thomas Wilder, passed away yesterday afternoon. Hiking accident in the mountains. We found your number in his emergency contacts." Nathan sat up in bed. His wife Ellen stirred beside him. "I'm sorry," Nathan said. "Did you say my father's from—" "Yes, sir. Thomas Wilder, age 68. The coroner has cum. There must be some mistake. My father left when I was 8 years old. I haven't seen him in 30 years. Silence on the line. "Then, sir, your father lived in Ridgemont for the past 25 years. He worked at the lumber mill until he retired. He talked about you all the time." Nathan couldn't breathe. His father had been alive, living in Montana, talking about him to strangers. For 25 years, his father had been 3 states away, and Nathan never knew. "Mr. Wilder, are you still there?" Yes, I'm here." "There's some paperwork that needs handling. Your father's estate, personal effects. He left everything to you." "Everything?" "His house, his truck, his savings account, and some property up in the mountains. A cabin, apparently. Nobody knew about it until we found the deed in his papers." Nathan's hand tightened on the phone. "I'll be there tomorrow." He hung up and stared at the wall. Ellen was fully awake now, her hand on his arm. "Nathan?" "What happened?" "My father's dead." The words felt strange in his mouth. Foreign. "He's been living in Montana for 25 years. He left me everything." "Oh, honey." Ellen pulled him close. "I'm so sorry." "Don't be." Nathan's voice was flat. "He abandoned us. He walked out on Mom and me without explanation. He let us think he was dead." He pulled away from Ellen's embrace. "I'm not going there to mourn him. I'm going to find out why." Ellen studied his face in the darkness. After 22 years of marriage, she knew when to push and when to let go. "Do you want me to come with you?" "No, stay with the kids. I need to do this alone." He booked a flight to Montana at 6 a.m. By noon, he was driving a rental car through mountain passes he'd never seen before toward a town he'd never heard of to bury a father he'd spent 3 decades hating. Nathan was 58 years old. He'd built a good life in Ohio, owned a construction company, raised 2 kids, loved his wife. He'd made peace with his father's abandonment years ago, or so he'd told himself. Now all that peace was crumbling. Why Montana? Why Ridgemont? Why hadn't his father ever reached out? And what was in that cabin in the mountains? Ridgemont was a small town carved into a valley between peaks that scraped the sky. Population 3,800. 1 main street. 1 diner. 1 sheriff's office where Nathan found Sheriff Jim Davis waiting for him. Davis was about Nathan's age, weathered and tired looking. He shook Nathan's hand with genuine sympathy. "I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. Wilder. Your father was well liked around here." "How did he die?" "Hiking accident. He went up into the high country 3 days ago, didn't come back. Search and rescue found his body at the bottom of a cliff near Morgan's Ridge. Looks like he slipped on some loose rock." "Was anyone with him?" "No, sir. Tom always hiked alone. Said it helped him think." Davis paused. "There's something else you should know. Your father, he'd been acting strange the past few weeks. Nervous, looking over his shoulder. A few people noticed it." "Nervous about what?" "I don't know. When I asked him about it, he said it was nothing. Old age making him paranoid. Davis handed Nathan a folder. These are his personal effects. Wallet keys, a few papers we found in his pockets. The coroner released the body this morning. Mortuary's on Pine Street when you're ready. Nathan opened the folder. His father's driver's license stared up at him. The face was older than he remembered, lined and weathered, but the eyes were the same. Those gray eyes that Nathan saw every time he looked in a mirror. There's one more thing. Davis reached into his desk and pulled out an envelope. This was in your father's cabin. He left instructions for us to give it to you if anything happened to him. The envelope was thick, sealed with tape. Nathan's name was written on the front in handwriting he barely recognized. Have you read it? No, sir, it's addressed to you. Nathan tucked the envelope into his jacket. Where's this cabin? About 20 miles up the mountain. Rough terrain. Your father bought the land 30 years ago, right after he moved here. Built the cabin himself over the first few years. Davis hesitated. There's no road, Mr. Wilder. You'd have to hike in, maybe 3-4 hours each way. I'll manage. Your father's house is on Maple Street, number 47. Keys are in that folder. Davis stood and offered his hand again. I really am sorry. Tom was a good man. Whatever happened between you two, he never stopped caring about you. Nathan didn't respond. He took the folder and walked out. His father's house was small and neat. A cottage really, with a tidy garden and a porch swing that creaked in the mountain wind. Inside, everything was organized with almost military precision. Books alphabetized, kitchen spotless, bed made with hospital corners. Nathan walked through the rooms like a ghost. This was where his father had lived for 25 years. These were the chairs he'd sat and the cups he'd drunk from the walls he'd stared at during long winter nights. And Nathan had known nothing about it. He found photographs on the mantel. His father with coworkers at the lumber mill. His father at a community barbecue. His father holding a fish he'd caught somewhere in these mountains. And in the corner, almost hidden behind the others, a photograph of Nathan. It was his high school graduation picture. Nathan remembered the day it was taken. He'd been 18, angry at the world, still bitter about his father's abandonment. His mother had insisted on the photograph, said it was important to document these moments. His father had kept it. For 30 years, his father had kept a picture of the son he'd left behind. Nathan's hands shook as he set the photograph down. The envelope. He needed to read the envelope. He sat at the kitchen table and tore it open. Inside were several pages covered in his father's handwriting, plus a hand-drawn map and what looked like a key. The letter began, Dear Nathan, if you're reading this, then I'm dead and you're finally learning the truth. I'm sorry, son. I'm sorry for leaving. I'm sorry for the silence. I'm sorry for 30 years of lies. But I need you to understand everything I did to protect you. In 1994, I witnessed something terrible. A murder. The victim was a man named Samuel Reeves and the killer was Raymond Garrett. You won't recognize the name, but you should. Garrett owns half of Montana now. Banks, ranches, timber companies, politicians. He's built an empire on blood and corruption, and I'm the only one who knows how it started. I was working late at the mill that night. I heard shouting near the loading dock. When I went to investigate, I saw Garrett standing over Reeves' body with a pipe in his hand. Reeves had been investigating Garrett's business practices. He'd found evidence of fraud, embezzlement, tax evasion. Garrett killed him to keep him quiet. Garrett saw me watching. He didn't try to hide it. He just smiled and said, Now you're part of this, Tom. Keep your mouth shut and you live. Talk and your family dies. That pretty wife of yours, that little boy. I should have gone to the police. I know that now. But I was terrified, Nathan. Garrett had connections everywhere. The sheriff, the judges, the state police. If I'd talked, he would have made good on his threat. So I did the only thing I could think of. I left. I ran away in the middle of the night, made sure you and your mother were safe, and disappeared into these mountains. I thought if I was gone, Garrett would have no leverage. I thought you'd be safer without me. I was wrong. I know that now. I traded your safety for your childhood. I broke your heart to save your life. And I've spent 30 years regretting it. But I never stopped watching over you, Nathan. I hired people to keep tabs. I know about your company, your wife, your kids. I know about your mother's funeral 12 years ago. I wanted to come. God, I wanted to come. But Garrett's people were still watching. They would have followed me straight to you. The cabin in the mountains, that's where I've kept everything. Evidence against Garrett. Documents, recordings, photographs. Enough to put him away for life. I've been gathering it for decades, waiting for the right moment to use it. I was going to send it to a journalist. A woman named Catherine Bell who's been investigating Garrett for years. But I think Garrett found out. His people have been watching me lately, following me when I go into town, parking outside my house at night. If I'm dead, Nathan, it wasn't an accident. Garrett had me killed. And now you're in danger too. Don't trust anyone in Ridgemont. Not the sheriff, not the doctors, not the lawyers. Garrett owns them all. Find the cabin, get the evidence, take it to Catherine Bell and Helena. She'll know what to do. The map shows the way. The key opens the lockbox hidden under the floorboards. I love you, son. I've loved you every single day since I left. I hope someday you can forgive me. Your father, Thomas Wilder. Nathan read the letter 3 times. His hands wouldn't stop shaking. His father had witnessed a murder. His father had been threatened. His father had spent 30 years in hiding, gathering evidence, waiting for a chance to make things right. And now his father was dead. Not an accident. Murder. Nathan looked at the map. The cabin was marked with a small X deep in the mountains north of town. The terrain looked brutal. Steep climbs, narrow ridges, no trails. His father had built a refuge up there. A sanctuary. A place to hide the truth. Nathan had to find it. He left at dawn the next morning. The first 3 hours weren't too bad. Nathan was in good shape for 58, and the trail his father had marked on the map was rough but manageable. Pine forests gave way to rocky meadows. Streams cut across his path, clear and cold. But as he climbed higher, the terrain grew treacherous. The trail disappeared entirely, in places replaced by scrambles over loose rock and through dense thickets of brush. Nathan's lungs burned. His legs ached. He had to stop every 15 minutes to catch his breath. How had his father done this? How had a 68-year-old man hiked this brutal terrain alone over and over for years? Because he had to, Nathan realized. Because keeping the evidence hidden was the only way to stay alive. By early afternoon, Nathan reached a narrow ridge that matched the final landmark on his father's map. According to the drawing, the cabin should be just ahead around a curve in the cliff face. He followed the ridge carefully, one hand on the rock wall for balance. A wrong step here would mean a fall of several hundred feet. Then he saw it. The cabin sat on a wide ledge that jutted out from the mountainside like a natural stage. It was small, one room, maybe 2, built from logs that had weathered to silver gray. A stone chimney rose from one end. The construction was solid tight, clearly the work of someone who knew what they were doing. His father had built this with his own hands, carried every log, every stone, every nail up this impossible trail, spent years creating a refuge that no one else knew existed. Nathan approached slowly, his heart pounding. The door was locked with a heavy padlock. He used the key from the envelope. The door swung open. Nathan stepped inside and stopped breathing. The cabin was immaculate. A wood stove in the corner, a narrow bed against one wall, shelves lined with supplies, canned food, water jugs, first aid supplies. Everything organized with the same military precision Nathan had seen in his father's house. But it wasn't the supplies that stopped him. It was the walls. Every inch of wall space was covered with photographs, documents, newspaper clippings. A massive investigation laid out in obsessive detail. Names and dates connected by colored string. Financial records highlighted and annotated. Faces circled in red marker. At the center of it all was a photograph of Raymond Garrett. Nathan recognized the name from his father's letter. But seeing the face made it real. Garrett was maybe 70 now, silver-haired, distinguished-looking. The kind of man you'd trust with your money or your life. According to the documents on the wall, he'd been murdering people for 4 decades. Nathan started reading. The more he learned, the sicker he felt. Samuel Reeves had been Garrett's business partner in the early days. When Reeves discovered Garrett was skimming from their joint accounts, he'd threatened to go public. Garrett beat him to death with a pipe and dumped the body in an abandoned mine shaft. That was 1994, the murder Nathan's father had witnessed. But it wasn't the first, and it wasn't the last. In 1988, a journalist named Robert Callahan had written an article questioning Garrett's business practices. He died in a car accident 3 weeks later. The brake lines had been cut. In 2001, a state auditor named Patricia Holmes had started investigating Garrett's tax returns. She disappeared while hiking and was never found. In 2008, a county commissioner named David Chen had opposed one of Garrett's development projects. He died of an apparent heart attack at 42. No autopsy was performed. 17 deaths in all. 17 people who'd gotten in Raymond Garrett's way and paid with their lives. And Nathan's father had documented every single one. There were recordings, too. Nathan found a box of cassette tapes labeled by date. He'd brought a portable player. His father's letter had warned him to bring one, and he popped in the first tape. His father's voice filled the cabin. September 14th, 2019. Followed Garrett's car to the old mill property. Met with 2 men I didn't recognize. Exchanged briefcases. Took photographs from the tree line. Plates on the other car registered to a shell company in Nevada. Another tape. March 3rd, 2021, Garrett met with Sheriff Davis at the diner, saw money change hands. Couldn't get close enough to hear what they said, but Davis's body language was nervous, submissive. He's definitely on Garrett's payroll. Another November 22nd, 2023, found financial records in the county clerk's office. Garrett has been bribing officials for decades. Have names, dates, amounts. This is enough to bring him down if I can get it to the right people. Nathan listened to tape after tape. His father's voice methodical and determined, documenting years of investigation. The evidence was overwhelming. Garrett had built his empire on fraud, bribery, and murder, and now Nathan had it all. He spent hours in the cabin going through everything. His father had been meticulous. Every document was dated and sourced. Every photograph was labeled. Every recording was transcribed. This wasn't the work of a paranoid man jumping at shadows. This was the work of someone who understood exactly how dangerous his enemy was and had prepared accordingly. The sun was setting when Nathan found the lockbox under the floorboards. It was exactly where his father's letter said it would be, beneath a loose board near the wood stove. Inside was a thick manila envelope sealed with wax. Nathan broke the seal and pulled out the contents. His breath caught. The envelope contained the original documents. The smoking guns. Garrett's personal financial records from 1994 showing the embezzlement that Samuel Reeves had discovered. A handwritten letter from Garrett to a hitman named Victor Crane authorizing the murder of journalist Robert Callahan. Photographs of Garrett standing over a body Nathan assumed was Patricia Holmes, the missing state auditor. This was it. This was the evidence that could destroy Raymond Garrett forever. Nathan was so focused on the documents that he almost missed the sound. Footsteps, outside the cabin. Multiple people moving carefully. Nathan froze. His father's letter had warned him. Don't trust anyone in Ridgemont. Garrett owns them all. Someone had followed him. He shoved the envelope into his jacket and looked for another exit. The cabin had only one door, one window. He was trapped. The footsteps stopped outside. Nathan Wilder. The voice was calm, almost friendly. I know you're in there. Why don't you come out so we can talk? Nathan didn't recognize the voice, but he recognized the tone. The confidence of someone who held all the cards. Who are you? My name is Victor Crane. I work for Mr. Garrett. He'd like to have a conversation with you about your father's belongings. Victor Crane. The hitman from the letter. The man Garrett had paid to murder Robert Callahan. Nathan's blood turned to ice. I'm armed, he lied. No, you're not. You're a construction company owner from Ohio. You've never held a gun in your life. A pause. There are 4 of us out here, Mr. Wilder. All armed, all professional. You can come out peacefully and talk to Mr. Garrett, or we can come in and carry you out. Your choice. Nathan's mind raced. 4 men, professional killers. He had no weapons, no backup, no phone signal this far up the mountain, but he had the evidence, and he had his father's map. The map showed another route off the mountain, a dangerous path along the cliff face that led to an old mining road. His father had marked it as an emergency escape route. If Nathan could reach the window without being seen, I'm coming out, he called. Just give me a minute to put down what I'm holding. Take your time. We're not going anywhere. Nathan grabbed the most critical documents from the lockbox, Garrett's letter to Crane, the financial records, the photographs. He stuffed them into his jacket with the envelope. Then he picked up the heavy iron poker from beside the wood stove. He moved to the window. It was small, barely big enough for a man to squeeze through, but it opened onto the cliff face away from where the voices were coming from. He eased the window open. Cold mountain air rushed in. The drop below was dizzying, but there was a narrow ledge maybe 2 feet wide that ran along the rock face. His father's escape route. Mr. Wilder, we're getting impatient out here. I said give me a minute. Nathan climbed through the window, his heart hammering. The ledge was even narrower than it had looked. One wrong step and he'd fall to his death. He pressed his back against the rock and began to move. Behind him, the cabin door crashed open. Shouts of confusion. Then, he's gone! Check the window! Nathan moved faster. The ledge curved around the cliff face, and if he could get out of their line of sight, a gunshot cracked. Rock exploded inches from his head. Stop, stop, or the next one goes through your spine! Nathan didn't stop. He couldn't stop. If they caught him, he was dead. The ledge narrowed even further. Nathan had to turn sideways, shuffling along with his face pressed against the rock. The drop below was hundreds of feet of empty air. Another gunshot. Closer this time. He heard men cursing, trying to follow him onto the ledge. Forget the ledge. Get to the other side. Cut him off. Nathan reached the curve in the cliff face. For a moment, he was hidden from view. He forced himself to move faster, ignoring the terror clawing at his chest. The ledge ended at a chimney crack in the rock, a vertical fissure just wide enough to climb down. His father had marked it on the map. Nathan wedged himself into the crack and started descending. The rock tore at his hands. His feet slipped on loose stone. He fell the last 10 feet and hit the ground, hard, pain exploding through his ankle. Sprained, maybe broken. Didn't matter. He had to keep moving. The mining road was close. He could see it through the trees, a dirt track winding down the mountain. If he could reach it, if he could find a car, if he could get to Helena and find Catherine Bell, headlights appeared around a bend in the road. Nathan ducked behind a boulder, his injured ankle screaming in protest. The vehicle approached slowly, a black SUV with tinted windows. It stopped maybe 50 yards from his position. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. Silver-haired. Distinguished looking. 70 years old, but moving with the confidence of someone who'd never been challenged in his life. Raymond Garrett. Mr. Wilder.
Trying.
Garrett's voice carried clearly in the mountain air. I know you're close. I can see the blood trail. Nathan looked down. His hands were cut from the climb, leaving red smears on the rocks he'd touched. Your father was a thorn in my side for 30 years, Garrett continued. Always watching, always documenting. I should have killed him back in '94, but I thought the threat would be enough. He chuckled. I underestimated his stubbornness, just like I'm apparently underestimating yours. Nathan stayed silent. If he could wait until Garrett's men caught up, maybe there would be a moment of confusion he could exploit. I'm going to make you an offer, Mr. Wilder. The same offer I made your father once upon a time. Walk away. Go back to Ohio. Forget you ever came here, and I'll let you live. You killed my father. Your father killed himself. He couldn't leave well enough alone. Had to keep digging, keep gathering evidence, keep planning his righteous crusade. Garrett's voice hardened. I gave him 30 years, Mr. Wilder. 30 years of peace. He could have lived out his days quietly. Instead, he chose to become a problem. Problems get solved. The evidence. What evidence? Some papers, some tapes. You think anyone will believe them. I own the sheriff. I own the judges. I own the state police. I could shoot you right here, right now, and nothing would happen to me. Nothing. Nathan heard footsteps approaching from the cliff above. Garrett's men finding another way down. Last chance, Mr. Wilder. Walk away or join your father. Nathan made his choice. He burst from behind the boulder and ran. His ankle screamed with every step, but adrenaline pushed him forward. The mining road curved ahead, descending steeply. If he could put enough distance between himself and Garrett, a gunshot cracked. Pain exploded in Nathan's shoulder. He stumbled and fell, rolled down the steep embankment. When he stopped rolling, he was lying in a creek bed, freezing water rushing over his legs. Blood soaked through his jacket. He heard voices above. Flashlights sweeping the darkness. Did you hit him? Think so. Saw him go down. Find him. Make sure he's dead. Nathan crawled. The creek bed led downhill away from the voices. Every movement was agony, but he kept going. Hand over hand. Inch by inch. The voices grew fainter. The flashlight swept past him, searching the wrong area. Nathan kept crawling until he couldn't hear them anymore. Then he dragged himself out of the creek, found a hollow beneath a fallen log, and collapsed. His shoulder was bleeding badly. He'd lost the map somewhere during the fall. He had no idea where he was or how to get to safety, but he still had the evidence. Still had the documents that could destroy Raymond Garrett. He pressed his hand against the wound and tried to stay conscious. His father had spent 30 years gathering this evidence, had sacrificed his family, his happiness, his life to bring a murderer to justice. Nathan wasn't going to let it be for nothing. He thought about Ellen, about his kids, about the life he'd built in Ohio so far from these mountains and their secrets. He thought about his father, about the photograph on the mantle, about 30 years of silence and regret. I'll finish it, Nathan whispered to the darkness. I promise, Dad, I'll finish what you started. Then the pain became too much and the world went black. He woke to sunlight filtering through the trees and a face he didn't recognize leaning over him. Easy, easy, you're safe. The face belonged to a woman, maybe 60 years old, with gray-streaked hair and kind eyes. She was pressing something against his shoulder, a cloth already soaked with blood. Who? Nathan's voice was barely a whisper. My name is Martha Chen. David Chen was my husband. Her expression was grim. Garrett killed him 15 years ago, made it look like a heart attack. Nathan remembered the name from his father's documents. David Chen, the county commissioner who'd opposed Garrett's development project. How did you find me? Your father contacted me 6 months ago, said he was close to having enough evidence to bring Garrett down, said if anything happened to him, his son might come looking. Martha helped Nathan sit up slowly. I've been watching the cabin for weeks waiting to see if you'd show up. Garrett's men. Gone. They searched all night but gave up around dawn. Figure you bled out in the wilderness somewhere. Martha's smile was tight. They underestimate people. That's their weakness. Nathan reached into his jacket. The documents were still there, soggy but intact. I have evidence, enough to put Garrett away forever. My father gathered it over 30 years. Martha's eyes went wide. Your father, he actually did it. He did it. Nathan felt tears burning in his eyes. He spent 30 years documenting everything Garrett's ever done. Every murder, every bribe, every crime. It's all here. Then we need to get you to Helena. There's a journalist named Catherine Bell. I know, my father mentioned her. Nathan tried to stand and nearly collapsed. His ankle was definitely broken. His shoulder wound had stopped bleeding, but he'd lost a lot of blood. You can't walk, Martha said firmly. I've got a truck about a mile from here. I'll bring it as close as I can, then help you the rest of the way. Garrett's people are looking for a dead man. They won't be watching the roads. Martha stood. Stay hidden. Don't move. I'll be back in an hour. She disappeared into the forest. Nathan leaned against the fallen log and closed his eyes. His body was wrecked. His father was dead. A murderer wanted him eliminated. But for the first time since that phone call 3 days ago, Nathan felt something other than confusion and grief. He felt hope. His father hadn't abandoned him out of cowardice or selfishness. His father had sacrificed everything, his family, his happiness, his life, to protect Nathan from a monster. And now, Nathan had the power to make that sacrifice mean something. He pressed his hand against the documents in his jacket. I'm going to finish it, Dad, he said again. Whatever it takes, I'm going to finish it. The wind whispered through the pines. Somewhere above, an eagle cried. And Nathan Wilder waited for his chance to bring a killer to justice. Martha returned 45 minutes later with an ancient pickup truck that groaned over the rough terrain. Getting Nathan into the passenger seat was an ordeal that left both of them sweating and gasping, but they managed. Helena's about 4 hours from here, Martha said, starting the engine. Catherine Bell works out of an office downtown. She's been investigating Garrett for 8 years, but she's never had enough evidence to publish anything substantial. She'll have enough now. Garrett will try to stop us. He has people everywhere. I know. Nathan checked his jacket again. The documents were still secure. But I'm already supposed to be dead. That gives us an advantage. Martha glanced at him. You're your father's son. He said the same thing once. Said being invisible was the only weapon he had against Garrett. Did you know him well? Not really. He reached out to me after David died. Said he had information but couldn't go public yet. We met a few times over the years. He was... Martha paused, choosing her words. He was haunted. You could see it in his eyes. The guilt of leaving his family. The weight of what he knew. He carried it all alone for so long. Nathan thought about the photographs in his father's house. The high school graduation picture hidden behind the others. He never stopped loving me. No, he talked about you constantly. Your company, your family, your life. He was so proud of you, Nathan. So proud that you'd built something real, despite everything. Tears ran down Nathan's face. He didn't try to stop them. I spent 30 years hating him, thinking he'd abandoned us for no reason, thinking he didn't care. He cared more than you'll ever know. Everything he did for you. Martha's voice was gentle. Don't let the anger erase that. He made terrible choices, yes, but he made them out of love. They drove in silence for a while. The mountain road wound downward, leaving the peaks behind. Nathan watched the landscape change from pine forests to grasslands to the outskirts of small towns. Tell me about Garrett, Nathan said finally. What's he like? Charming, generous, the kind of man who donates to children's hospitals and sponsors Little League teams. Martha's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He came to David's funeral, shook my hand, told me what a tragedy it was losing such a good man so young. I had to stand there and smile while my husband's killer offered condolences. Did you suspect him? Not at first. David's death looked natural. Massive heart attack, the doctors said. But a few months later, I found some of David's files. Notes about Garrett's business dealings, questions about permits and payoffs. David had been investigating him and I never knew. That's when your father reached out to me. Said David wasn't the first person to die asking questions about Raymond Garrett. Said there were others. Many others. Nathan absorbed this. His father had been building a network, quietly connecting the survivors, the widows, the people who'd lost loved ones to Garrett's ambition. How many people know the truth? More than you'd think, but knowing and proving are different things. Garrett's covered his tracks well. Anyone who could testify against him either dies or disappears. Martha's jaw tightened. That's why your father's evidence is so important. He found the proof, the documents, the recordings, the photographs, the things that can't be explained away or buried. And Catherine Bell can publish them. Catherine Bell can do more than that. She has connections in the federal government, people who've been waiting for exactly this kind of evidence. Martha looked at Nathan. If we can get those documents to her, this won't just end Garrett. It'll expose the entire network of corruption he's built. Judges, politicians, law enforcement, all of them. Nathan thought about Sheriff Davis, the sympathetic man who'd called him in the middle of the night, who'd handed over his father's effects with such apparent grief, who, according to his father's tapes, was on Garrett's payroll. We can't trust anyone, Nathan said. No, we can't. Martha turned onto a larger road heading toward the distant shimmer of city lights. But we can be smart, we can be careful, and we can finish what your father started. They reached Helena as the sun was setting. Martha drove to a modest office building downtown and parked in an alley behind it. Catherine's office is on the 3rd floor. I'll stay with the truck in case we need to leave quickly. Nathan climbed out of the truck, wincing at the pain in his ankle. If I'm not back in an hour, I'll come looking for you. Martha's expression was firm. Be careful. Nathan made his way to the building's back entrance. The door was unlocked. Catherine was expecting him. Martha had called ahead. He limped up 3 flights of stairs and found a door with a simple nameplate, C. Bell Investigative Journalism. He knocked. Come in. The office was cramped and cluttered, every surface covered with files and newspapers and photographs. A woman sat behind a desk, late 50s, with sharp eyes and gray hair cut short. She stood when Nathan entered. Nathan Wilder. Yes. Catherine Bell. She studied him. The blood on his clothes, the way he favored his injured ankle, the haunted look in his eyes. You look like you've been through hell. I have. Nathan reached into his jacket and pulled out the soggy documents. But I brought you something worth the trip. Catherine took the documents carefully, her eyes widening as she read. For several minutes she said nothing. Just turned page after page, her expression cycling through disbelief, then shock, then cold fury. My God, she whispered. Your father actually did it. He got everything. 30 years of work. Nathan sank into a chair, exhausted. He gathered it all, documented every crime Garrett ever committed. He just needed someone to publish it. This is enough to end him. Not just legally, his entire network. Politicians, judges, law enforcement. Catherine looked up at Nathan. Do you understand what this means? Garrett's empire collapses. Dozens of people go to prison. The corruption he's been building for 40 years gets exposed to the entire country. I understand. You'll have to testify. Tell your story publicly. Garrett's lawyers will try to destroy your credibility and his allies will try to destroy you. I'm already supposed to be dead. What else can they do? Catherine smiled grimly. You really are your father's son. She set the documents down and reached for her phone. I have contacts at the FBI, people I trust, people outside Garrett's influence. If I can get these documents to them tonight. A sound from the hallway, footsteps, multiple people moving fast. Catherine's face went pale. They found us. How? Doesn't matter. She grabbed the documents and shoved them into a fireproof safe behind her desk. There's a fire escape outside my window. Go, now. I'm not leaving you. You're the witness. You're the one who has to testify. Without you, these documents are just paper. Catherine pushed him toward the window. Go, get to Martha. Get out of the city. I'll contact you when it's safe. The office door exploded inward. 2 men rushed in, guns drawn. Nathan recognized one of them from the cabin, Victor Crane, the hitman. Catherine stepped between them and Nathan. This is a journalist's office. You have no right. Crane shot her in the chest. She fell without a sound. Nathan didn't think. He threw himself through the window, shattering glass hitting the fire escape hard. His shoulder screamed. His ankle gave out. He tumbled down the metal stairs, crashed through the final ladder, landed in the alley below. Martha's truck was already moving. The passenger door flew open. Get in. Nathan dove into the truck. Martha floored it. They roared out of the alley as gunshots cracked behind them. "Catherine," Nathan gasped. "I saw." Martha's voice was tight with grief. "She's gone, but she got the documents into the safe. Garrett's people won't be able to destroy them." "The FBI? I'll contact them. Catherine gave me the names years ago in case something like this happened." Martha turned onto a main road, blending into traffic. "But first, we need to get you somewhere safe. You're bleeding again." Nathan looked down. His shoulder wound had reopened. Blood soaked through his shirt. "I don't care about safe," he said through gritted teeth. "I care about finishing this." "You can't finish anything if you bleed to death." Martha's expression was fierce. "We're going to a doctor I trust. You're going to get patched up, and then..." She reached over and gripped Nathan's hand. "Then we're going to destroy Raymond Garrett. Together." Nathan leaned back against the seat. Catherine Bell was dead. His father was dead. The evidence was locked in a safe surrounded by Garrett's men. But he was still alive, and he wasn't giving up. "Together," he agreed. The truck disappeared into the Helena night, carrying the last hope of bringing a monster to justice. 3 days later, Nathan stood in front of a television camera, preparing to tell the world the truth. The FBI had retrieved Catherine's documents within hours of her death. Federal agents who'd been investigating Garrett for years finally had the evidence they needed. Arrest warrants were issued, raids were planned. But someone had tipped Garrett off. He'd fled before the agents could reach him, disappearing into the network of safe houses and aliases he'd built over decades. So Nathan went public. He told the cameras everything: his father's letters, the cabin in the mountains, the documents, the recordings, the photographs, the murder of Catherine Bell, the 30-year conspiracy that had corrupted an entire state. The story went national within hours, then international. Raymond Garrett became the most wanted man in America. His empire crumbled. Politicians he'd bribed resigned in disgrace. Judges he'd controlled were arrested. Sheriff Jim Davis was taken into custody while trying to destroy evidence in his own office, but Garrett himself remained free, hiding somewhere waiting for the storm to pass. Nathan knew it wouldn't pass. Not now, not ever. His father had started this fight 30 years ago. Nathan was going to finish it. The call came 6 weeks later. Nathan was staying at a safe house in Wyoming under federal protection. Ellen and the kids had joined him after the initial media frenzy died down. They were together finally after the longest weeks of Nathan's life. "Mr. Wilder?" The voice on the phone was unfamiliar. Professional. "We have him. Raymond Garrett was captured this morning at the Canadian border. He's in federal custody." Nathan sat down heavily. "You're sure how to positive identification. He'll be arraigned tomorrow and held without bail pending trial. It's over, Mr. Wilder, thanks to you and your father." Nathan hung up the phone. Ellen was watching him from across the room. "They got him," Nathan said. "They caught Garrett." Ellen crossed to him and wrapped her arms around his neck. "Then it's really over. It's really over." But even as he said the words, Nathan knew they weren't entirely true. The legal battle would take years. Garrett had resources, lawyers, allies who might still try to help him escape justice. And Nathan's father was still dead, murdered on a mountain trail for the crime of knowing too much. Some things couldn't be undone. But Nathan had kept his promise. He'd finished what his father started. He'd brought a killer to justice and exposed a network of corruption that had poisoned an entire region for decades. His father would have been proud. Nathan walked to the window and looked out at the Wyoming mountains, so different from the peaks of Montana, but somehow familiar. "I did it, Dad," he said quietly. "I kept my promise." The wind rattled the window pane, and for just a moment, Nathan could have sworn he heard his father's voice carried on the breeze. "I know, son. I always knew you would." The truck's headlights cut through the darkness as Martha drove them out of Helena. Nathan pressed his hand against the wound in his shoulder, feeling blood seep between his fingers. Catherine Bell's face kept flashing in his mind, the way she'd stepped between him and the guns, the sound her body made hitting the floor. "She saved my life," Nathan said. "She barely knew me, and she died for me. She died for the truth." Martha's voice was steady, but her hands gripped the wheel like she was strangling it. Catherine spent 8 years trying to bring Garrett down. She knew what she was getting into. "The documents are still in her safe. Garrett's people will destroy them." "No, they won't." Martha glanced at him. "That safe is fireproof, bulletproof, and wired to an alarm at the FBI field office. The moment anyone tries to open it without the code, federal agents will be there in minutes." Nathan processed this. She planned for this. Catherine planned for everything. She knew Garrett would come for her eventually. She just didn't know when. Martha turned onto a dirt road that Nathan couldn't see in the darkness. The FBI will have those documents by morning, and once they do, Garrett's finished. Unless he runs. He'll run, but he can't run forever, not with every federal agency in the country looking for him. They drove for another hour through back roads that twisted through farmland and forest. Nathan drifted in and out of consciousness, the blood loss making everything feel distant and unreal. He dreamed of his father standing at the edge of a cliff, reaching out his hand, trying to say something Nathan couldn't hear. When he woke, they were parked outside a small farmhouse. A light burned in the window. "Where are we?" "Safe house, a friend of Catherine's." Martha helped him out of the truck. "There's a doctor inside, former military medic. He'll patch you up without asking questions." The doctor's name was Ben. He was maybe 70, with hands that moved with the confidence of someone who'd spent decades pulling bullets out of soldiers. He worked on Nathan's shoulder for nearly an hour, cleaning the wound, stitching the torn flesh, bandaging everything tight. "Bullet went clean through," Ben said when he finished. "Missed the bone and the major arteries? You're lucky." "I don't feel lucky." "Lucky to be alive." Ben handed him a bottle of pills. "Antibiotics. Take 2 every 6 hours, and try not to get shot again." Nathan almost laughed. Almost. Martha brought him soup and coffee while Ben cleaned up his supplies. They sat in a small kitchen that smelled like wood smoke and something cooking. Nathan's hands shook when he lifted the cup to his lips. "What happens now?" "Now we wait. I've already contacted Catherine's FBI connection, a man named Special Agent Thomas Reeves." Nathan froze. "Reeves? Like Samuel Reeves?" "His son." Martha's expression was grim. "Samuel was Garrett's first victim, the murder your father witnessed back in 1994. Thomas grew up knowing his father had been killed, but never knowing who did it. When he became an FBI agent, he dedicated his career to finding out." "Does he know about Garrett?" "He suspected, but he could never prove anything. Garrett's network was too good at covering tracks." Martha leaned forward. "Thomas has been waiting 30 years for this moment, Nathan. Just like your father was. Just like I was. Tomorrow morning he'll have the evidence he needs to bring Garrett down." Nathan thought about all the people whose lives had been destroyed by Raymond Garrett. The families left behind. The children who grew up without parents. The widows who never got justice. His father had tried to save them all. "I want to be there," Nathan said. "When they arrest him. I want to look him in the eye." "You might get that chance, but first you need to rest. You've lost a lot of blood and you're running on adrenaline. If you collapse before this is over, everything your father worked for could fall apart." Nathan wanted to argue, but his body betrayed him. Exhaustion hitting like a wave. He let Martha help him to a small bedroom, collapsed onto the bed, and was asleep before his head hit the pillow. He dreamed of his father again. This time Thomas was smiling. The next morning came too fast. Nathan woke to the sound of his phone buzzing. It was a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Wilder, this is Special Agent Thomas Reeves. We need to talk." Nathan sat up, wincing at the pain in his shoulder. "I'm listening." "Catherine Bell's documents have been recovered. We have everything. Financial records, photographs, recordings. Your father's 30 years of investigation." Reeves paused. "It's enough to bring down Raymond Garrett and his entire network. But we have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Garrett knows we're coming. Someone in my office tipped him off. He's gone underground and he's taken hostages." Nathan's blood went cold. "Hostages who?" "Your wife and children." Reeves's voice was heavy with regret. "Garrett's people took them from your home in Ohio 4 hours ago. We have no idea where they're being held." The world tilted. Nathan grabbed the edge of the bed to keep from falling. "Ellen, my kids." "I'm sorry, Mr. Wilder. We had agents watching your house, but Garrett's people were better. They killed 2 of my men getting in." Nathan couldn't breathe. His wife, his children, in the hands of the man who'd murdered his father. What does he want? "You. He wants you to turn yourself over in exchange for your family's release. He's given us 12 hours to make the trade." "Where?" "Nathan, I can't let you do this. If you surrender to Garrett, he'll kill you and your family anyway. The man doesn't leave witnesses." "Where?" Silence on the line. "Then Ridgemont. He's gone back to where this started. He wants to make a statement." Nathan was already moving. His shoulder screamed, but he ignored it, pulling on his clothes, grabbing his jacket. "I'm coming to Ridgemont." "Nathan, listen to me. We're mobilizing a team. FBI, state police, everyone we can trust. We'll get your family back without sacrificing you." "Garrett's had 30 years to build his network. You don't know who you can trust." Nathan's voice was ice. I'm not gambling my family's lives on a system he's already corrupted. If you go in alone, you'll die. Maybe, but at least I'll die fighting." Nathan hung up and walked into the kitchen where Martha was waiting. She took one look at his face and knew. "What happened?" "Garrett has my family, Ellen and the kids. He wants me in exchange." Martha's face went pale. "Nathan, you can't. I don't have a choice." Nathan grabbed the truck keys from the table. "Drive me to Ridgemont. Now." "He'll kill you." "Maybe, but if I don't go, he'll definitely kill them." Nathan met her eyes. "My father spent 30 years protecting me from this man. He gave up everything so I could have a life. Now it's my turn to protect what matters." Martha stared at him for a long moment, then she nodded. "I'm coming with you." "Martha." "My husband died because of Garrett. Catherine died because of Garrett. Your father died because of Garrett." Her jaw was set, her eyes fierce. "I'm not sitting on the sidelines anymore. If we're going to end this, we end it together." They drove through the morning, the mountains growing larger on the horizon. Nathan tried to call Ellen's phone a dozen times. No answer. He tried his son Michael's phone, his daughter Sarah's phone. Nothing. 4 hours into the drive, his phone buzzed again. Unknown number. "Mr. Wilder?" The voice was smooth, cultured, familiar. "Raymond Garrett." "I assume Agent Reeves has informed you of the situation." "If you hurt them." "Please, there's no need for threats. This is a simple business transaction. You have something I want your silence. I have something you want your family. We make an exchange, everyone goes home." "You're a murderer. You don't let people go home." Garrett laughed. "Your father told you about me, I see. Yes, I've done unpleasant things over the years. Necessary things. But I'm not a monster, Mr. Wilder. I don't kill people for sport, only when they become problems." "My father was a problem." "Your father was stubborn. He spent 30 years building a case against me when he could have simply moved on with his life. If he'd kept his mouth shut, he'd still be alive. You could have known him. Instead, he chose martyrdom." Garrett's voice hardened. "Don't make the same mistake." "What do you want?" "Come to Ridgemont, alone. Bring whatever documents you still have. Destroy whatever copies you've made. Do this, and your family walks free. And me? You and I will have a conversation about the future. One where you return to Ohio and forget any of this ever happened. I'm not interested in killing you, Mr. Wilder. Killing you would draw attention. I'm interested in silence. Permanent, absolute silence." Nathan gripped the phone so hard the plastic creaked. "How do I know my family is alive?" A rustling sound. Then Ellen's voice, strained and terrified. "Nathan? Nathan, don't come here. Don't do what he says. He's going to kill us anyway." The phone was pulled away. Garrett again. "Satisfied your wife is brave but foolish. If you want her to stay alive, you'll do exactly what I say." "I'll be there in 4 hours." "Excellent. I'll send you the location when you arrive in Ridgemont. And Mr. Wilder, don't try anything clever. I have eyes everywhere in that town. If you contact the FBI, if you bring anyone with you, if you do anything other than exactly what I've instructed, your family dies. Slowly. Am I clear?" "Crystal?" The line went dead. Nathan stared at the phone in his hand. His wife's voice echoed in his head. "Don't come here. Don't do what he says." Ellen had always been smart. She knew Garrett wouldn't keep his word. She knew this was a trap, but what choice did he have? Martha was watching him from the driver's seat. "What did he say?" "Come alone, bring the documents, exchange myself for my family." "You know he won't honor that deal." "I know." "So what are you going to do?" Nathan looked out the window at the passing mountains. His father had spent 30 years in these peaks gathering evidence, building a case, waiting for the moment when justice could finally be served. That moment was now. "I'm going to do what my father would have done," Nathan said. "I'm going to finish this." They reached Ridgemont at 2:47 p.m. The town looked exactly as Nathan remembered from 3 days ago, quiet, peaceful, deceptively normal. Hard to believe that a monster had built his empire from this place. His phone buzzed, an address, an abandoned mill on the outskirts of town, the same mill where his father had witnessed Samuel Reeves's murder 30 years ago. Garrett was making a statement, bringing everything full circle. "This is where it happened," Nathan said, "where my father saw Garrett kill Samuel Reeves. He wants to destroy you in the same place he destroyed them." Martha's voice was grim. "Classic Garrett. He loves symbolism. Drop me off a block away, then get out of town." Nathan, I mean it, Martha. Whatever happens in there, I need to know you're safe. Someone has to survive this. Someone has to make sure Garrett pays for what he's done. Martha pulled the truck to a stop. Her eyes were bright with tears she refused to shed. Your father would be proud of you. I hope so. Nathan climbed out of the truck. Thank you, Martha, for everything. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you walk out of there alive. She drove away. Nathan watched until the truck disappeared around a corner. Then he walked toward the mill. The building loomed ahead, a hulking structure of brick and rusted metal. Nathan could see two men standing at the entrance, both armed, both watching his approach with cold professional eyes. Nathan Wilder. One of them stepped forward. Mr. Garrett is expecting you. Where's my family? Inside, you'll see them soon enough. The man gestured with his rifle. Arms up, we need to search you. Nathan raised his arms and let them pat him down. They found no weapons, he hadn't brought any. Just the documents from his father's cabin, the ones that could destroy Raymond Garrett forever. This way. They led him inside. The mill was cavernous and empty machinery stripped away years ago, leaving only concrete floors and rusted support beams. Footsteps echoed as they walked deeper into the building, and then Nathan saw them. Ellen was tied to a chair, a bruise darkening her cheek. Michael and Sarah were beside her, also bound, their faces pale with terror. Behind them stood Victor Crane, the hitman, his gun pressed against Ellen's temple. Nathan. Ellen's voice cracked. I told you not to come. I had to. Nathan's eyes never left hers. I love you. I couldn't let him hurt you. How touching. Raymond Garrett emerged from the shadows. He looked exactly as Nathan had seen him that night on the mountain road, silver-haired, distinguished, utterly in control. The devoted husband, the loving father, rushing to his family's rescue. I'm here. Let them go. In due time. Garrett circled Nathan slowly. First, let's discuss the documents. Do you have them? Nathan pulled the papers from his jacket and held them out. Everything my father collected. Every piece of evidence that could connect you to the murders. Garrett took the documents and flipped through them. His expression was unreadable. 30 years of work. Your father was thorough, I'll give him that. Garrett handed the papers to one of his men. Burn them? No. Nathan lunged forward, but strong hands grabbed him from behind, holding him in place. That's 30 years of evidence. That's proof of what you did. That's exactly why it needs to be destroyed. Garrett smiled. Did you really think I'd let you walk out of here with this information? Did you think I'd let any of you walk out of here? Ellen screamed. The children started crying. Nathan struggled against the men holding him. You said you'd let them go. I lied. Garrett shrugged. Something I'm quite good at, actually. Your father learned that the hard way. The FBI knows everything. They have copies of the documents. Even if you destroy these, even if you kill us, you're finished. The FBI knows what I want them to know. Garrett's smile widened. Agent Reeves is a true believer, I'll grant you that, but half his team is on my payroll. The documents from Catherine Bell's safe, they'll disappear into an evidence locker and never see the light of day. The witnesses who might testify against me, they'll have accidents. The journalists who might pick up the story, they'll find their careers suddenly destroyed. Garrett stepped closer to Nathan, his voice dropping to a whisper. You think 30 years of evidence can bring me down? I've spent 30 years building a network that can survive anything. Your father thought he could expose me. Catherine Bell thought she could expose me. They're both dead, and soon you will be too. You're a monster. I'm a pragmatist. There's a difference. Garrett turned to Victor Crane. Kill the wife first. Make him watch. Crane raised his pistol. Nathan screamed, and then the windows exploded. Flashbang grenades filled the mill with blinding light and deafening noise. Nathan hit the floor, covering his head as gunfire erupted around him. He heard men shouting, bodies falling, chaos everywhere. A hand grabbed his arm and pulled him upright. He found himself staring into the face of Special Agent Thomas Reeves. Stay down. Reeves shoved Nathan behind a concrete pillar. We've got this. FBI agents poured through every entrance, overwhelming Garrett's men. Victor Crane tried to use Ellen as a shield, but a sniper bullet took him through the head before he could pull the trigger. He dropped without a sound. Nathan ran for his family. He reached Ellen and tore at the ropes binding her wrists. I've got you. I've got you. You're safe now. The kids? I'm getting them too. Nathan freed Michael, then Sarah, pulling them both into a desperate embrace. I've got you. Daddy's got you. Nathan, Reeves's voice cut through the chaos. Garrett's running. Nathan looked up to see Raymond Garrett disappearing through a back door. Without thinking, he sprinted after him. Nathan, no! Ellen screamed, but he was already gone. The chase led through darkened corridors and out into a loading dock behind the mill. Garrett was running for a black SUV parked nearby, his movements frantic, all his composure finally shattered. Nathan tackled him 5 feet from the vehicle. They hit the ground hard, grappling in the dirt. Garrett was 70 years old, but he fought like a cornered animal, clawing at Nathan's face, trying to gouge his eyes. Nathan absorbed the blows and kept fighting. All he could see was his father's face, the photograph on the mantle, the high school graduation picture hidden behind the others. All he could feel was 30 years of grief and rage. "You killed him." Nathan slammed Garrett's head against the ground. "You murdered my father and made me think he abandoned us." Garrett spat blood. He was weak. He could have walked away, but he chose to be a hero. Heroes die, Mr. Wilder. That's the only thing they're good for. Nathan's hands found Garrett's throat. "Nathan, stop!" Reeves was behind him. Nathan could hear the agent's footsteps, feel his presence. "He killed my father." Nathan's voice broke. "He killed Catherine. He was going to kill my family." "I know, and he's going to pay for all of it, in court, in prison, for the rest of his miserable life." Reeves crouched beside Nathan. "Don't give him the easy way out. Don't become what he is." Nathan looked down at Garrett's face. The man was smiling through bloody teeth. "Do it," Garrett whispered. "Kill me. Prove that you're no better than I am." Nathan's hands tightened on Garrett's throat. He thought about his father, about 30 years of sacrifice and solitude, about the cabin in the mountains, the walls covered with evidence, the lockbox under the floorboards. His father had spent 3 decades building a case against Raymond Garrett. He'd given up his family, his happiness, his life, not for revenge, but for justice. Nathan released his grip and stood up. "You're not worth it." Reeves moved in with handcuffs. Garrett was hauled to his feet, his composure completely gone, now his face twisted with impotent rage. "This isn't over," Garrett screamed. "I have lawyers, I have connections, you can't prove anything. We have everything." Reeves's voice was cold. "Your ledger, your recordings, your own handwriting documenting 30 years of murder and corruption. You're done, Garrett, and you're going to spend the rest of your life in a federal prison knowing that Thomas Wilder beat you from beyond the grave." Garrett was still screaming as they dragged him away. Nathan stood in the loading dock watching until the flashing lights disappeared around the corner of the building. Then he walked back inside to find his family. Ellen ran to him the moment she saw him. Their children followed, all 4 of them collapsing into a desperate, tearful embrace. "I thought I lost you," Ellen sobbed. When they put us in that van, I thought I'd never see you again." "I'm here." Nathan held her tighter. "I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." "Dad," Michael's voice was small, shaky. "Is it over?" Nathan looked at his son, 17 years old, trying so hard to be brave, and felt his heart crack. "It's over," Nathan said. "It's finally over." They held each other for a long time. When Nathan finally looked up, he saw Martha standing at the edge of the room. She hadn't left. She'd stayed, probably helped coordinate the FBI raid, probably saved all their lives. Nathan walked over to her. "Thank you." "I told you not to thank me yet." But she was smiling through her tears. "Thank me when it's really finished." "It's finished. Garrett's in custody. The evidence is secure. My father's 30 years of work wasn't for nothing." Martha reached out and touched his face. "He would be so proud of you, Nathan. So proud." Nathan thought about the letter his father had left. The apology, the explanation, the love that had never faded despite 30 years of separation. "I know," he said. "I think I finally understand." The FBI kept them at the mill for hours, taking statements, documenting evidence, making sure every detail was recorded for the prosecution. Garrett's network began unraveling almost immediately. His corrupted agents tried to flee. His bought politicians started making desperate deals. His entire empire collapsed like a house of cards. By midnight, Nathan and his family were on a plane back to Ohio. They didn't speak much during the flight. There was too much to process, too much to understand. Nathan held Ellen's hand and watched his children sleep, grateful beyond words that they were still alive. The trial began 3 months later. It was the biggest case in Montana history. Raymond Garrett faced 47 charges, including 17 counts of murder, racketeering, corruption, bribery, and conspiracy. The evidence against him was overwhelming. Thomas Wilder's 30 years of documentation combined with Catherine Bell's investigations and the testimony of dozens of witnesses who'd finally found the courage to speak. Nathan testified for 2 days. He told the jury about the phone call that started everything, the letters in the envelope, the cabin in the mountains, the evidence his father had gathered at the cost of his family and his life. When he finished, the prosecutor asked one final question. "Mr. Wilder, why do you think your father did this? Why did he spend 30 years gathering evidence instead of simply walking away? Nathan looked at the jury. 12 ordinary people waiting for an answer. Because he believed in justice, Nathan said. Not revenge, not anger, justice. He believed that the truth mattered even when it cost him everything. He believed that one person could make a difference even against overwhelming odds, and he believed that someday, somehow, the right people would finally listen. Nathan's voice cracked. My father was a hero. I didn't understand that until I read his letters. I didn't understand why he left until I saw what he built in those mountains. He sacrificed everything so that this moment could happen, so that a murderer could finally be brought to justice. He looked directly at Raymond Garrett, who sat at the defense table with eyes full of hatred. My father won. It took 30 years, but he won. And no matter what happens in this courtroom, that victory can never be taken away. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. They found Raymond Garrett guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without possibility of parole. When the verdict was read, Nathan didn't cheer or celebrate. He simply closed his eyes and thought about his father in that cabin on the cliff, surrounded by evidence, waiting for the day when justice would finally be served. I finished it, Dad, he whispered. I kept my promise. And somewhere in the mountains of Montana, the wind carried his words up to the peaks where Thomas Wilder had spent 30 years fighting for the truth. 6 weeks after the verdict, Nathan received a package with no return address. He almost threw it away. The trial had brought unwanted attention: reporters, documentary filmmakers, people claiming to have known his father. Most of it was noise. Most of it meant nothing. But something about this package felt different. The handwriting on the label was familiar. Nathan stared at it for a long moment before he realized why. It was his father's handwriting. Ellen. His voice came out strangled. Come here. She found him standing in the kitchen holding the package like it might explode. When she saw his face, she stopped cold. What is it? This is my father's writing, on the label. That's impossible. Your father's been dead for months. I know, Nathan set the package on the table, but this is his writing. I'd recognize it anywhere. They opened it together. Inside was a smaller box wrapped in brown paper and a letter sealed in an envelope. Nathan's hands shook as he unfolded the paper. The letter was dated 3 days before his father's death. Nathan, Ellen breathed. How is this possible? He must have mailed it before Garrett killed him, but it's been 6 weeks since the trial. Why is it only arriving now? Nathan read the letter aloud. Son, if you're reading this, then the trial is over and Garrett is in prison. I arranged for this package to be delivered after the verdict, assuming justice was finally served. There's a man in Helena named Walter Briggs who handles these things for me. He's trustworthy. Nathan paused, his throat tight. I left something out of the evidence I gave you, something I couldn't include in the documents because it would have endangered people who are still alive. But now that Garrett is finished, you need to know the whole truth. Ellen gripped his arm. What truth? Nathan kept reading. Your mother didn't die of cancer, Nathan. She was murdered. Garrett's people poisoned her slowly over 18 months, making it look like natural illness. I found out too late to save her. I've spent the last 12 years trying to prove it. The letter fell from Nathan's hands. His mother. His mother had been murdered too. No, the word came out broken. No, that can't be right. Nathan. She had cancer. The doctors said it was cancer. I was there when she died. Ellen. I held her hand. I know. Ellen pulled him close. But your father wouldn't lie about this. Not about something this important. Nathan's legs gave out. He sank into a chair, his whole body shaking. For 30 years, he'd blamed his father for abandoning them. For 30 years, he'd believed Thomas Wilder had simply walked away. But his father had been fighting. Fighting to protect Nathan from a monster who'd already killed his mother. The box. Nathan's voice was hollow. What's in the box? Ellen opened it carefully. Inside was a USB drive and a small leather journal. More evidence, she said. Nathan, there's more evidence. He took the journal with trembling hands. His mother's name was written on the first page. Margaret Wilder. Below it in his father's handwriting, everything I know about how they killed her. Nathan read through the night. His father had discovered the truth 5 years after leaving. A confidential source inside Garrett's organization had revealed that Margaret Wilder's cancer hadn't been natural. Garrett's people had been dosing her food with a slow-acting carcinogen, knowing that Thomas was gathering evidence, knowing that killing her quickly would raise suspicions. They'd wanted Thomas to suffer. Wanted him to watch his wife die from a distance, unable to help, unable to even say goodbye. I should have been there. Nathan's voice cracked. When Mom was dying, when she was asking for Dad, I told her he didn't care. I told her he'd abandoned us, and the whole time he was trying to save her. You didn't know. I should have known. Nathan slammed his fist against the table. I should have trusted him. Instead, I spent 30 years hating a man who sacrificed everything for me. Ellen let him rage, let him grieve. Some wounds needed to bleed before they could heal. By morning, Nathan had made a decision. I'm going back to Montana. Nathan, the trial is over. Garrett's in prison. This isn't about Garrett. Nathan held up the journal. My father spent years investigating my mother's murder. He gathered evidence, named names. If there are other responsible people who helped Garrett poison her, they need to face justice too. The FBI can handle that. The FBI has moved on. Garrett was their target and they got him. But my father wanted more than Garrett. He wanted everyone involved. Nathan met Ellen's eyes. I have to finish this. For him, for my mother, for all the years I spent being angry at the wrong person. Ellen was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'm coming with you. Ellen, no arguments. Her voice was firm. We almost lost each other once. I'm not letting you walk into danger alone again. The kids are old enough to stay with my sister. We do this together, or we don't do it at all. Nathan wanted to protest, but he'd learned something over the past few months. He couldn't carry everything alone. His father had tried that, and it had cost him 30 years with his family. Together, Nathan agreed. They flew to Montana 3 days later. Special Agent Thomas Reeves met them at the airport. I got your message. Reeves looked older than he had at the trial, worn down by months of testimony and media attention. You said you have new evidence. Evidence about my mother's murder. Nathan handed over the journal and USB drive. Garrett didn't just kill my father and Samuel Reeves. He killed my mother too, slow poisoning over 18 months. Reeves's face went gray. My God. The journal names 3 people who helped administer the poison, a doctor, a pharmacist, and someone inside my mother's workplace who had access to her food. Nathan's voice hardened. I want them found. I want them arrested. I want them to face the same justice Garrett did. Reeves studied the journal for a long moment. This is detailed. Your father was thorough. He had 12 years to investigate. He found everything. If this evidence holds up, we can reopen the case. Charge these people as accessories to murder. Reeves looked at Nathan. But I need to warn you, this process takes time. Months, maybe years. And it'll mean more testimony, more media attention, more pain. I don't care about the pain. I care about justice. Reeves nodded slowly. Then we'll get you justice. They spent the next 2 weeks in Montana working with Reeves and his team to verify the evidence in Thomas's journal. The 3 people named her Harold Jensen pharmacist Maria Santos and office manager Carol Webb were all still alive, all still living in Ohio, less than 50 miles from where Margaret Wilder had died. They've been there the whole time. Nathan's voice was bitter. Walking around free while my mother rotted in the ground. Not for much longer. Reeves set down a stack of arrest warrants. We're moving on all 3 tomorrow morning. Simultaneous arrests so they can't warn each other. I want to be there. Nathan, that's not a good idea. I want to look them in the eye. I want them to know that Thomas Wilder's son is the one who brought them down. Reeves hesitated. Then he sighed. You can observe from a distance, but you stay back. You don't interfere. Understood. Understood. The arrests happened at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday. Nathan watched from an FBI surveillance van as agents surrounded Dr. Harold Jensen's home. The doctor came out in his bathrobe, confused and frightened, demanding to know what was happening. Harold Jensen, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Margaret Wilder. The agent's voice crackled through the van's speakers. You have the right to remain silent. Jensen's face went white. That was 30 years ago. You can't prove anything. We have documentation, your own handwriting prescribing medications designed to interact with the carcinogen your employer was feeding her. The agent pulled Jensen's arms behind his back. Thomas Wilder kept very good records. Nathan watched as Jensen was loaded into a vehicle, a small petty man who'd helped murder a woman for money, who'd watched Margaret Wilder waste away and told her family it was cancer. 1 down, Reeves said. 2 to go. Maria Santos was arrested at her pharmacy. She tried to run out the back door and was tackled by agents waiting in the alley. Carol Webb broke down crying before they even finished reading her rights, confessing to everything within minutes of being taken into custody. By noon, all 3 were in federal custody. Nathan sat in Reeves's office staring at the mugshots on the screen. 3 faces, 3 people who'd helped Raymond Garrett murder his mother. "It's over," Ellen squeezed his hand. "You did it." "My father did it. I just finished what he started." Nathan's voice was hollow. He spent 12 years gathering this evidence. 12 years knowing what happened to her and being unable to do anything about it. He did something about it, Nathan. He documented everything. He made sure that someday these people would face justice. Ellen touched his face. "Your father was a hero. You know that now." "I know." Tears streamed down Nathan's cheeks. "I just wish I'd known it sooner." They returned to the cabin 2 days later. Nathan needed to see it again. Needed to walk through the space his father had built, touch the walls his father had raised, understand the life his father had lived in exile. The climb was easier this time. Nathan knew the trail now, knew the landmarks, knew how to pace himself through the difficult sections. Ellen struggled more than he had, but she pushed through without complaint. "He did this alone," she said when they finally reached the ledge. "For 30 years he climbed this trail alone. He had to. It was the only way to stay hidden." Nathan unlocked the cabin door. "He gave up everything to protect us, and I never even knew." The cabin was exactly as Nathan had left it, the walls still covered with evidence, though the FBI had taken most of the documents as exhibits for the trial. The wood stove still sat in the corner, the narrow bed still pressed against the wall. But there was something different, something Nathan hadn't noticed before. "Ellen? Look at this." A loose board in the wall near the bed. Nathan had walked past it a dozen times without seeing it. But now with the evidence removed, the slight gap was visible. He pulled the board away. Behind it was a small compartment. Inside the compartment was a metal box. Another lockbox. Ellen's voice was hushed. "What's inside?" Nathan opened it. His breath caught. The box contained photographs. Dozens of them, spanning decades. Nathan as a baby. Nathan's first day of school. Nathan's Little League games, his high school graduation, his wedding, the birth of his children. His father had been watching. For 30 years, Thomas Wilder had found ways to obtain photographs of his son's life. Had collected them, treasured them, hidden them in this secret place where he could look at them whenever the loneliness became too much. And there was more. Letters. Dozens of letters addressed to Nathan dated over 3 decades. Letters Thomas had written but never sent. Nathan picked up the first one dated 1990s, 2 years after Thomas had left. "Dear Nathan, you turned 10 today. I watched from a distance as your mother threw you a birthday party. You looked so happy. I wanted to walk across the street and hug you, tell you I love you, tell you I'm sorry, but I couldn't. Garrett's people were watching. If I'd approached you, they would have known. They would have used you against me. So I stood behind a tree and watched my son blow out his candles, and I cried. Happy birthday, Nathan. I love you more than you'll ever know." Nathan couldn't continue. The letters blurred in his vision. Ellen took over reading through the years. Letters for every birthday. Letters for graduations and promotions and anniversaries. Letters his father had written in the dark of night, pouring out his love for a son he could never contact. The last letter was dated 1 week before Thomas died. "Dear Nathan, I think Garrett knows. His people have been following me. Watching the cabin. I've mailed the final evidence to people I trust, and I've arranged for you to receive everything if something happens to me. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I have years left. I hope that someday I can hand you these letters in person and explain everything. But if I'm right, if this is the end, I want you to know that leaving you was the hardest thing I ever did. I want you to know that I never stopped loving you. I want you to know that every sacrifice I made for you. Be happy, son. Live a good life. And please, please forgive me." Nathan held the letter to his chest and wept. Ellen held him. The mountain wind whistled through the cabin walls. And somewhere Nathan knew his father was finally at peace. They stayed at the cabin for 3 days. Nathan needed the time to read every letter to absorb 30 years of his father's love and regret. Ellen explored the surrounding area, finding traces of Thomas everywhere, a fishing spot by the creek, a cleared area where he'd practiced shooting a grave marker for a dog Nathan hadn't known his father owned. "He named it Scout," Ellen said, showing Nathan the small wooden cross. "There's a date. Looks like the dog died about 5 years ago." "He was alone up here for so long." Nathan's voice was thick. "Just him and his dog and his mission." "He wasn't alone. He had you." Ellen touched his arm. "Every photograph, every letter, you were with him the whole time." On the 3rd day, Nathan made a decision. "I'm not selling this cabin." Ellen looked surprised. "I thought you'd want to get rid of it. Too many painful memories." "No, this is where my father lived, where he fought for justice, where he kept his hope alive for 30 years. Nathan looked around the small space. I'm going to keep it, fix it up, make it a place where our family can come and remember him. The kids would like that, Michael especially. He's been asking about his grandfather. Then we'll bring them here. We'll show them what their grandfather built. We'll tell them the truth about who he was and what he sacrificed. Ellen smiled. He'd like that. They hiked down the mountain the next morning. But before they left, Nathan did one final thing. He took down the evidence from the walls. All the photographs of Garrett, all the newspaper clippings, all the documentation of crimes and corruption. None of it belonged here anymore. The fight was over. In its place, he hung the photographs from the lockbox. Pictures of himself as a child. Pictures of his wedding. Pictures of Michael and Sarah as babies. The cabin was no longer a war room. It was a memorial, a testament to a father's love. Rest now, Dad, Nathan whispered. You've earned it. The wind answered him with a gentle sigh. 3 months later, the secondary trial began. Dr. Harold Jensen, Maria Santos, and Carol Webb faced federal charges for their role in Margaret Wilder's murder. The evidence Thomas had gathered was devastating financial records. It's showing payments from Garrett prescriptions designed to accelerate the poison's effects testimony from Carol Webb, who'd broken completely and agreed to testify against the others. Nathan testified again. This time, he didn't talk about documents or evidence. He talked about his mother. She was kind, he told the jury. She worked 2 jobs to support us after my father left. She never complained, never blamed anyone. When she got sick, she kept working until she physically couldn't anymore. She died believing it was cancer, believing that bad luck had stolen her life. His voice broke. But it wasn't bad luck. It was murder. These 3 people, he pointed at the defendants, helped poison my mother over 18 months. They watched her waste away and told her it was God's will. They collected their money and slept peacefully while she suffered. Nathan looked directly at the jury. My father spent 30 years trying to bring them to justice. He gave up his family, his happiness, his life. He died believing he'd failed, but he didn't fail. He left behind everything I needed to finish what he started. His voice steadied. My mother deserves justice. My father deserves justice. And these 3 people deserve to spend the rest of their lives remembering what they did. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. They found all 3 defendants guilty. Jensen received 25 years. Santos received 20 years. Webb, who had cooperated, received 15. As the verdicts were read, Nathan felt something shift inside him, a weight he'd been carrying for months, years, really finally lifting. His mother was avenged. His father was vindicated. The people who'd destroyed his family were finally paying the price. Ellen found him outside the courthouse after the sentencing. She didn't say anything. She just held him while he cried. It's done, Nathan finally said. It's really done. How do you feel? Empty, relieved, sad. He wiped his eyes. Grateful. My father gave me everything I needed. He protected me even when I hated him for leaving. He loved me even when I didn't deserve it. You always deserved it, Nathan. Maybe. He looked up at the sky, clear and blue. I spent 30 years being angry at the wrong person. I spent 30 years not understanding why my father did what he did. And now I finally understand what it means to sacrifice everything for the people you love. They drove back to the hotel in silence. Nathan was exhausted, emotionally, physically, spiritually. The trials were over. The justice was served. But the grief remained. That night he dreamed of his father. They were standing at the edge of the cliff, looking out over the mountains. Thomas looked younger than Nathan remembered, strong and healthy, the way he must have looked before 30 years of exile wore him down. You did it, son. Thomas's voice was warm. You finished what I started. I should have done it sooner. Should have trusted you. You did exactly what you needed to do, when you needed to do it. Thomas turned to face him. I never blamed you for being angry, Nathan. You had every right to hate me. I left you. I let you believe I'd abandoned you. That was my choice, and I've lived with the consequences. You were protecting us. I was trying to, but protection and abandonment feel the same to a child. Thomas's eyes glistened. I'm proud of you, Nathan. So proud. You've become a better man than I ever was. That's not true. It is. You have something I never had, a family you can hold. Children you can watch grow up a wife who loves you. Thomas smiled. Don't waste it. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Be present. Be there. Tell them you love them every single day. I will. And Nathan, forgive yourself, for the anger, for the hatred, for the years you spent blaming me. Thomas reached out and touched his son's face. None of that matters anymore. What matters is what you do next. Nathan woke with tears on his cheeks and his father's name on his lips. Ellen was awake beside him. Another dream. The last one, I think. Nathan wiped his eyes. He told me to forgive myself. Good advice. He told me to be present, to not waste the time I have with my family. Ellen moved closer, resting her head on his shoulder. Also good advice. I've spent so much time focused on the past, on justice, on revenge. Nathan took a deep breath. I think I'm ready to focus on the future. What does the future look like? Nathan thought about his children, about the cabin in the mountains, about the life he'd almost lost and the second chance he'd been given. The future looks like going home, he said, building something good, honoring my father by being the man he wanted me to be. Ellen kissed him softly. Then let's go home. They flew back to Ohio the next morning. Michael and Sarah were waiting at the airport, their faces breaking into smiles when they saw their parents walking through the terminal. Dad, Mom? Sarah ran to them first, throwing her arms around Nathan's neck. We saw the trial on the news. You were amazing. Your grandfather was amazing, Nathan said. I just told his story. Michael hung back a little. 17 years old, trying to be mature, trying not to show how scared he'd been. Nathan walked over and pulled his son into a hug. I'm sorry I was gone so long. It's okay, I understood. Michael's voice was muffled against Nathan's shoulder. You had to finish it? For Grandpa. I did. And now it's finished. I'm home for good. They drove back to the house as a family. Nathan looked out the window at the familiar streets, the familiar houses, the familiar life he'd built over 3 decades. It all looked different now, precious, fragile, worth protecting. Dad? Sarah's voice from the back seat. Are you okay? I'm good, sweetheart. I'm really good. You seem sad? Not sad, just... Nathan searched for the right word. Grateful. Your grandmother and grandfather sacrificed everything so I could have this life. I didn't understand that until now. Will you tell us about them, about what really happened? Yes, when you're ready, I'll tell you everything. Nathan reached back and squeezed his daughter's hand. They were heroes, Sarah, both of them, and I want you to know their story. That night, after the kids had gone to bed, Nathan sat in his backyard and looked up at the stars. The same stars his father had seen from his cabin in Montana. The same stars his mother had looked at from this very spot before the poison took her. I understand now, Nathan said to the darkness. I understand why you did what you did, and I forgive you, both of you, for everything. The wind rustled through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Nathan closed his eyes and let the peace wash over him. The fight was over. Justice was served. His parents could finally rest, and Nathan Wilder could finally begin to heal. 1 year later, Nathan returned to the cabin for the last time. He'd brought his family with him, Ellen, Michael, Sarah. They'd made the difficult hike together, supporting each other through the steep sections, laughing at the parts that seemed impossible. The cabin looked different now. Nathan had spent months fixing it up, replacing rotted boards, installing new windows, making it safe for visitors. The walls no longer held evidence of crimes. They held photographs. His parents' wedding picture, family portraits spanning decades, the letters his father had written but never sent. It's beautiful, Dad. Sarah stood in the doorway, taking it all in. Grandpa built all this himself. Every board, every nail. He carried the materials up that trail for years. Nathan put his arm around his daughter. He did it for us, so we'd have a safe place if we ever needed it. Michael was examining the photographs. He really watched us the whole time. The whole time, every birthday, every graduation, every important moment. Nathan's voice thickened. He loved us, Michael. He just couldn't show it without putting us in danger. Ellen found the stack of letters Nathan had placed on the shelf. Can we read them? That's why I brought them here. I want you all to know who Thomas Wilder really was. They spent the evening reading the letters aloud, laughing at some parts, crying at others, learning about a man who'd sacrificed everything for love. As the sun set over the mountains, Nathan walked to the edge of the cliff. The same spot where his father had stood countless times looking out at a world he could never return to. We're here, Dad, Nathan said, all of us, together. The wind picked up, carrying the scent of pine and snow. I brought something for you. Nathan pulled a small urn from his pack. The state finally released your remains. I thought you'd want to rest here, in the place you built. in the mountains you loved." He scattered the ashes over the cliff. They caught the wind and swirled upward, dancing in the fading light, disappearing into the endless sky. "Goodbye, Dad. I love you. I'll always love you." Ellen appeared beside him, slipping her hand into his. Michael and Sarah joined them, standing together at the edge of the world. A family united, a story complete, a father finally at peace. The last light faded from the sky. Stars emerged one by one until the heavens blazed with light, and somewhere in that infinite darkness, Nathan knew his father was watching and finally smiling. The peace lasted exactly 17 days. Nathan was in his office at the construction company when his phone rang. The number was blocked, which should have been his first warning. He answered anyway. "Mr. Wilder?" The voice was female, unfamiliar, and cold. "My name is Victoria Garrett. I believe you knew my father." Nathan's blood turned to ice. "Raymond Garrett is in federal prison." "Yes, thanks to you, and now I'm going to make sure you understand what that cost my family." A pause. "Did you really think this was over? Did you really think destroying my father meant destroying everything he built? What do you want?" "I want you to suffer, the way I've suffered, the way my mother suffered when the FBI dragged my father away in handcuffs." Victoria's voice hardened. "But I'm not stupid. I know I can't touch you directly. The FBI is watching. Your precious Agent Reeves has you under protection." "Then why are you calling?" "To let you know that protection has limits. You can't watch everyone all the time. You can't guard every person you love." Victoria laughed softly. "Your father learned that lesson. Your mother learned it. And soon you will too." The line went dead. Nathan sat frozen, the phone still pressed to his ear. Victoria Garrett. He'd never even known Raymond had a daughter. The FBI hadn't mentioned her during the trial. She hadn't appeared in any of the evidence his father had gathered. A ghost. A threat that had been invisible until this moment. He called Reeves immediately. "Victoria Garrett." Reeves's voice was grim. "Yeah, we know about her. She's 43 years old, lives in Seattle, runs a tech company her father funded. We've had eyes on her since the trial, but she hasn't done anything illegal." "She just threatened my family." "Threatened how?" "Said I couldn't protect everyone. Said she was going to make me suffer." Nathan's hand tightened on the phone. "She mentioned my mother, Reeves. She knew what happened to her." Silence on the line. Then, "I'll increase surveillance on Victoria. Put additional agents on your family. But Nathan, I need you to understand something. Until she actually does something, we can't arrest her. Making threats isn't enough." "So I'm supposed to wait until she hurts someone." "I know it's frustrating, but the law is the law. We can't preemptively arrest people for being angry." Reeves sighed. "Stay alert. Vary your routines. Don't let your guards down. And if anything happens, anything at all, call me immediately." Nathan hung up and stared at the wall. His father had spent 30 years looking over his shoulder. 30 years waiting for Garrett's people to find him. And now Nathan was inheriting that fear. He thought about Ellen, about Michael and Sarah, about the life they'd built and the peace they'd finally found. Victoria Garrett wanted to take all of that away. Nathan wouldn't let her. He called Ellen first, told her about the threat without sugarcoating it. She listened in silence, then said the words he'd been hoping to hear. "We don't run, we don't hide. We faced Garrett together, and we'll face his daughter together." "She's dangerous, Ellen. She has resources, connections." "So did her father, and he's rotting in a federal prison." Ellen's voice was steel. "I'm not living in fear, Nathan. Not after everything we've been through. If Victoria Garrett wants a fight, she's going to get one." Nathan loved his wife more in that moment than he ever had before. They took precautions, installed a security system, taught Michael and Sarah to be aware of their surroundings, varied their routes to work and school, but they didn't stop living. They refused to let fear control them. 2 weeks passed without incident. Nathan began to wonder if Victoria's call had been an empty threat, a way to frighten him without actually doing anything. Then Michael didn't come home from school. Nathan got the call at 4:47 p.m. Ellen's voice was high and tight, fighting to stay calm. "He's not answering his phone. His friend said he left practice an hour ago. Nathan, where is he?" "Stay home. Lock the doors. I'm calling Reeves." Nathan was already running for his car when Reeves answered. "Victoria." "I don't know yet. My people are checking her location. But Nathan, I need you to stay calm. Michael might just be..." "He's not just anything. He's 17 years old and he always checks in. Something's wrong." Nathan drove home in a blur. Ellen met him at the door, her face white with terror. Sarah was behind her crying. "Dad, what's happening? Where's Michael?" "We're going to find him. I promise." His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Nathan answered with shaking hands. Mr. Wilder? Victoria's voice again, but different now, triumphant. Missing something. Where is my son? Safe, for now, but that can change very quickly. What do you want? I want you to understand how it feels. My father is in prison because of you. He's going to die in there, and now your son is going to experience a fraction of that fear. Victoria paused. Don't worry, I'm not going to kill him. I'm not a monster, but he's going to spend some time away from home thinking about what his father did to my family. If you hurt him, you'll what? Have me arrested. I'm in Seattle, Wilder. I haven't touched anyone. I've just made a phone call. Victoria laughed. The people who have your son, they're professionals. Former employees of my father who were very unhappy when his network collapsed. They don't answer to me. They answer to money. And right now they're being paid very well to keep Michael safe as long as you cooperate. Cooperate how? I'll be in touch with instructions. In the meantime, don't contact the FBI. Don't tell anyone about this call. If I find out you've involved the law enforcement, Michael dies. It's that simple. The line went dead. Ellen was staring at him. What did she say? Nathan couldn't speak. He just pulled his wife into his ears and held her while she screamed. The next 12 hours were the longest of Nathan's life. He paced the house like a caged animal. Ellen sat on the couch, unmoving, her eyes fixed on her phone. Sarah had retreated to her room, too frightened to speak. Victoria's instructions came at 3 a.m. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to hold a press conference tomorrow. You're going to publicly apologize to my family. You're going to say that your father fabricated the evidence against Dr. Raymond Garrett. You're going to claim that the trial was a miscarriage of justice and demand that my father be released. No one will believe that. I don't care if they believe it. I care that you say it. I care that Thomas Wilder's son goes on television and admits that his father was a liar. And if I do this, you'll release Michael. If you do this, Michael comes home. If you don't. Victoria's voice hardened. Well, accidents happen, especially to teenagers who don't know how dangerous the world can be. Nathan felt sick. His father had spent 30 years gathering evidence, had sacrificed everything to bring Raymond Garrett to justice, and now Victoria wanted Nathan to destroy that legacy on national television. I need proof that Michael is alive. Fair enough. A rustling sound. Then Michael's voice, terrified but alive. Dad, I'm okay. They haven't hurt me. But Dad, don't do what she says. Don't. The phone was pulled away. Victoria again. Satisfied? When do you want this press conference? Tomorrow, noon. I'll be watching. Nathan hung up and looked at Ellen. She wants me to say my father lied, to claim the evidence was fabricated. You can't do that. She has our son. I know, but Nathan, Ellen grabbed his hands. If you do this, everything your father worked for disappears. Garrett could appeal. He could get out. Your mother's killers could walk free. None of that matters if Michael dies. Then we find another way. Ellen's voice was fierce. We outsmart her. We find Michael? We end this without destroying your father's legacy. How? I don't know, but I know we don't give up. I know we don't let this woman win. Nathan closed his eyes. His wife was right. There had to be another way. He picked up his phone and called Martha Chen. Martha answered on the second ring. Nathan, it's 4 a.m. Victoria Garrett has my son. Silence. Then, tell me everything. Nathan explained. The phone call, the threat, the demand for a press conference. When he finished, Martha was quiet for a long moment. Victoria isn't working alone. She mentioned professionals, former employees of her father. That means people who used to work for Garrett's network. I know? Which means people I might know. Martha's voice sharpened. Your father documented everyone in Garrett's organization. Names, addresses, specialties. I've been going through his files for years. If Victoria hired former Garrett operatives, I might be able to figure out who they are and where they're keeping Michael. Hope flickered in Nathan's chest. You think you can find him? I think I can try, but I need time. Can you stall, Victoria? She wants the press conference at noon tomorrow. Then stall her. Tell her you need more time to prepare. Tell her you want better proof that Michael is alive. Anything to buy me a few more hours. Nathan looked at Ellen. She nodded. I'll do what I can. And Nathan, don't call Reeves, not yet. If Victoria finds out the FBI is involved, she'll panic. Panicked people make bad decisions. I understand. Martha hung up. Nathan sat in the darkness holding Ellen's hand, praying that his father's 30 years of documentation would save his son. The morning passed in agony. Nathan called Victoria at 9 a.m. and demanded more proof that Michael was unharmed. She sent a video Michael holding a newspaper with today's date, his face pale but uninjured. Nathan studied every frame looking for clues about where his son was being held. "The background," Ellen said, peering at the screen. "There's a window. Looks like mountains. Could be anywhere in Montana. But it narrows things down. Martha might be able to use this." Nathan sent the video to Martha. An hour later, she called back. "I think I know who has him. There's a man named Frank DeLuca who used to run security for Garrett's Western operations. He owns a hunting lodge about 2 hours north of Ridgemont. The terrain in that video matches the area." "You're sure?" 80% sure. It's our best lead." Martha paused. "But Nathan DeLuca is dangerous. He's not going to hand Michael over just because we ask nicely." "What are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting we do what your father would have done. We gather information, we plan, and then we strike." Nathan told Ellen he was going to Montana. "I'm coming with you." "Ellen, no. If something goes wrong." "If something goes wrong, I want to be there. Michael is my son too." Her eyes burned with determination. "We do this together. That's what we promised each other." They left Sarah with neighbors and flew to Montana on the 11 a.m. flight. Martha met them at the airport. "I've been watching the lodge. 2 guards outside, probably more inside. DeLuca has Michael in a room on the 2nd floor. I could see movement through the window. How do we get him out? I have an idea, but it's risky." "Tell me." Martha explained her plan. Nathan listened, his jaw tightening with every word. "That's insane. It's the only way. DeLuca won't expect it." Ellen spoke up. "What do you need from us?" "Courage, and the willingness to do whatever it takes to get your son back." Nathan looked at his wife. She looked at him. "Whatever it takes," they said together. The plan went into motion at 4 p.m. Martha drove up to the lodge alone, claiming to be lost. While she distracted the guards with questions about directions, Nathan and Ellen approached from the back of the property. The rear entrance was locked, but Nathan had brought tools. Years of construction work had taught him how doors worked and how to get through them when necessary. "Stay behind me," he whispered to Ellen. They slipped inside. The lodge was quiet, the hallway dark. Nathan could hear voices from somewhere deeper in the building, Martha still talking to the guards. He moved toward the stairs. A man stepped out of a doorway, gun raised. "Don't move." Nathan froze. The man was large-scarred with the eyes of someone who'd seen violence and didn't flinch from it. "You're Wilder." "Yes." "DeLuca said you might try something stupid." The man gestured with his gun. "Hands up, both of you." Nathan raised his hands. Ellen did the same. The man reached for his radio. Ellen moved. She grabbed a heavy lamp from a nearby table and swung it with all her strength. The man went down hard, blood streaming from his temple. "Ellen!" "Don't just stand there, find Michael." Nathan ran for the stairs. He heard shouts from below the guards, realizing something was wrong. He had seconds at most. The 2nd-floor hallway had 3 doors. Nathan kicked the first one open. Empty. The second one. Empty. The 3rd door was locked from outside. "Michael." "Dad." His son's voice desperate and hopeful. "Dad, I'm in here." Nathan threw his shoulder against the door. Once, twice. On the 3rd impact, it splintered and gave way. Michael was tied to a chair but alive, unharmed. Nathan pulled out his pocket knife and cut the ropes. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. Dad, there's more of them." "I know. We have to move." They ran for the stairs. Gunfire erupted from below. Martha and Nathan realized, providing cover from outside. "Back door." Nathan grabbed Michael's arm. "Go." They burst through the rear entrance and into the forest. More gunfire behind them. Shouts. Running footsteps. Ellen appeared beside them, her face wild. "This way. Martha has a car." They ran through the trees, branches tearing at their clothes, hearts pounding. Nathan could hear pursuit behind them, but it was falling back. DeLuca's men weren't prepared for this. They'd expected a simple ransom exchange, not a rescue mission. The car was waiting on a dirt road half a mile from the lodge. Martha was behind the wheel, engine running. "Get in now." They piled into the vehicle. Martha floored the accelerator. Gravel sprayed as they tore down the road, putting distance between themselves and the lodge. "Is everyone okay?" Martha's eyes flickered to the rearview mirror. "We're fine." Nathan held Michael close. "We're all fine." "Then we need to call Reeves. Victoria's operation just fell apart. She's going to be desperate." Nathan nodded and pulled out his phone. but before he could dial, it rang. Victoria Garrett. "You made a very stupid decision, Mr. Wilder." Her voice shook with rage. "You think this is over? You think rescuing your son means you've won? I think it means you've lost. I never lose. My father taught me that." Victoria's voice dropped to a whisper. "You took my family from me. Now I'm going to take everything from you. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday when you least expect it, I'll be there. The FBI is going to find you. The FBI can't find what they're not looking for. I'm invisible, Mr. Wilder. I always have been." A pause. "Give my regards to your family. What's left of them." The line went dead. Nathan stared at the phone. Victoria was right about one thing. She was invisible. She'd orchestrated a kidnapping from 3,000 miles away without ever getting her hands dirty. Even if the FBI arrested DeLuca and his men, they might never prove Victoria's involvement. "What did she say?" Ellen asked. "She's not giving up." "Then neither are we." Ellen squeezed his hand. "We beat her today. We'll beat her again." Michael spoke for the first time since the car started moving. "Dad, what's going on? Who was that woman?" Nathan looked at his son. 17 years old, terrified, confused. He deserved to know the truth. "That was the daughter of the man who killed your grandfather. She wanted revenge for what I did to her father." "The trial? You mean Raymond Garrett?" "Yes." Michael was quiet for a moment. "Then, Grandpa really did all that stuff you talked about, spent 30 years fighting this guy." "He really did. And now his daughter is coming after us." "She's trying to." Michael's jaw tightened. He looked so much like Thomas in that moment, the same determination, the same refusal to back down. "Then we fight her, the way Grandpa fought her father." Nathan felt tears sting his eye. His son, his brave, stubborn son. "Yeah," Nathan said, "that's exactly what we do." They reached the FBI field office 2 hours later. Reeves was waiting. "We've arrested Frank DeLuca and 3 of his associates. They're talking. Apparently, Victoria promised them a lot of money to grab Michael, but she never actually paid them. They're eager to cooperate." "Will their testimony be enough to prosecute Victoria?" "Maybe. DeLuca claims all his instructions came through encrypted messages, but our tech people are working on tracing them." Reeves looked at Nathan. "You should have called me sooner." "I know, but I was afraid of what Victoria might do if she found out." "I understand, but Nathan, you can't keep fighting this alone. Victoria has resources, connections. She could come after your family again." "So what do we do?" "We build a case, the same way your father built a case against Raymond. We document everything. We gather evidence. We wait for Victoria to make a mistake. And in the meantime, we keep your family safe. Federal protection, new identities if necessary. Whatever it takes." Nathan thought about his father. 30 years of hiding, 30 years of looking over his shoulder. "No." Reeves blinked. "No. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. My father spent his whole life in exile, and it didn't protect anyone. My mother still died. He still died. The only thing that worked was fighting back. Nathan, Victoria is dangerous." "So am I." Nathan met Reeves's eyes. "I've lost too much to be afraid anymore. If Victoria wants to come after me, let her come. But I'm not going to spend the rest of my life waiting for her to strike." Ellen stepped forward. "We're going home, Agent Reeves. We're going to live our lives. And if Victoria Garrett shows her face, we're going to destroy her the same way we destroyed her father." Reeves looked between them. Nathan could see the conflict in his eyes. The professional concern warring with something that might have been admiration. "All right," Reeves said finally. "But you call me the moment anything happens, anything at all." "We will." They flew home that night. Michael slept on the plane exhausted from his ordeal. Sarah had been told a sanitized version of events. Her brother was safe. The bad people had been caught. Everything was okay. But Ellen and Nathan sat awake holding hands, staring out at the darkness beyond the window. "Do you think it's really over?" Ellen asked. "No, Victoria meant what she said. She's not going to stop." "Then what do we do?" Nathan thought about his father, about the cabin in the mountains, about 30 years of documentation and evidence and waiting. "We prepare," Nathan said, "the way Dad prepared. We gather information, we build defenses, and when Victoria makes her move, we're ready. And if she never makes a move, if she just waits, like she said, then we outlast her." Nathan squeezed his wife's hand. "My father outlasted Raymond for 30 years. I can outlast Victoria for however long it takes." Ellen leaned her head on his shoulder. Your father would be proud of you." "I hope so." Nathan closed his eyes. "I really hope so." The plane carried them home through the night. Below, the mountains of Montana faded into darkness, holding their secrets close. And somewhere in Seattle, Victoria Garrett was already planning her next move. 3 months passed. Nathan hired private security, installed surveillance cameras around the house, taught his children self-defense, built a network of contacts who could warn him if Victoria's people came sniffing around. He became his father's son in every way that mattered. Martha Chen helped. She'd spent years studying Thomas Wilder's methods, and now she passed that knowledge on to Nathan. How to document suspicious activity, how to trace financial transactions, how to build a case that couldn't be dismissed. "Your father wasn't just gathering evidence," Martha explained. "He was creating a story, a narrative so clear and compelling that no jury could ignore it. That's what we need to do with Victoria." "We don't have 30 years. We don't need 30 years. Victoria is sloppy. She's angry. Angry people make mistakes." They watched. They waited. They documented everything. And then 6 months after Michael's kidnapping, Victoria made her mistake. She tried to bribe a federal judge. Not subtly, not carefully. She walked into his office with a briefcase full of cash and asked him to dismiss charges against Frank DeLuca. The judge reported her immediately. Victoria Garrett was arrested 2 days later at her Seattle home. The charges included bribery, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and involvement in the kidnapping of Michael Wilder. Nathan watched the arrest on the news. Ellen sat beside him, her hand in his. "She actually thought she could buy her way out," Ellen said. "She's her father's daughter. That's all she knows." "Will the charges stick?" "Reeves says they have everything they need." The judge recorded their conversation. "Combined with DeLuca's testimony and the financial records we helped trace," Nathan smiled grimly. "Victoria's going away for a long time." The trial lasted 3 weeks. Nathan testified again, describing Victoria's threats, the kidnapping, the months of fear his family had endured. When the verdict came guilty on all counts, Nathan felt something he hadn't expected. Not joy, not triumph, just relief. It was really over. Both Garretts were in prison. The network his father had fought against for 30 years was finally completely destroyed. He drove to Montana one last time. Alone this time. He needed to say goodbye properly. The cabin was waiting for him, peaceful in the afternoon light. Nathan climbed the trail, slowly, savoring the journey his father had made so many times. He sat on the cliff edge and looked out at the mountains. "We did it, Dad," he said. "Victoria's in prison. Your evidence put both of them away. Everything you sacrificed, and everything you gave up, it meant something." The wind rustled through the pines. "I understand now why you did what you did, why you stayed hidden, why you couldn't come home." Nathan's voice cracked. "I'm sorry I hated you for so long. I'm sorry I didn't understand." He pulled out the last letter his father had written, the one that had arrived in the mail weeks after Thomas died. "You told me to forgive myself, to be present, to not waste the time I have with my family." Nathan folded the letter carefully. "I'm trying, Dad. Every day I'm trying." He stayed until the sun set. Then he stood, looked one last time at the cabin his father had built, and walked down the mountain. He didn't look back. Some journeys only go one direction. But the love his father had shown. Through 30 years of sacrifice that went with Nathan forever. 5 years had passed since Victoria Garrett's conviction, and Nathan Wilder had finally learned how to sleep through the night. The nightmares still came occasionally. His father falling from a cliff. His mother wasting away in a hospital bed. Michael tied to a chair in that hunting lodge. But they were echoes now, not sirens. The past had loosened its grip. He was 63 years old. His hair had gone completely gray, just like his father's had in those final photographs. Ellen teased him about it, sometimes said he looked distinguished. He didn't feel distinguished. He felt tired in the way that only survivors feel tired. But he also felt grateful. Michael had graduated from college and started his own business. Sarah was in medical school, determined to become the kind of doctor who actually helped people. Ellen had retired from teaching and spent her days gardening, reading, volunteering at the local library. They'd built a good life. A peaceful life. The kind of life Nathan's father had wanted for them. And then on a Tuesday morning in late October, the phone rang. "Mr. Wilder, this is Warden Patterson from Riverside Federal Penitentiary. I'm calling to inform you that Raymond Garrett died last night." Nathan sat down slowly. "How?" "Heart failure. He'd been in declining health for months. The doctors did everything they could, but..." Patterson paused. "He left something for you, a letter. His last request was that we deliver it personally. I don't want anything from Raymond Garrett. I understand, sir, but legally, we're obligated to honor his final wishes. A courier will arrive tomorrow with the letter. What you do with it is entirely up to you. Nathan hung up and stared at the wall. Raymond Garrett was dead. The monster who'd murdered his parents, who'd terrorized his family, who'd destroyed countless lives over 4 decades, was finally permanently gone. He should have felt something. Relief? Satisfaction? Closure? Instead, he felt empty. Ellen found him still sitting there an hour later. Nathan, what happened? Garrett's dead. She sat beside him and took his hand. How do you feel? I don't know. I thought when this day came I'd feel something, but I just feel numb. Maybe that's okay. Maybe numb is the right response to someone like him. He left me a letter. Ellen's grip tightened. What? His final request. A letter for me specifically. Nathan shook his head. I don't understand. Why would he write to me after everything? Are you going to read it? I don't know. The letter arrived the next morning, delivered by a federal courier who required Nathan's signature on 3 separate forms. The envelope was thick, cream-colored with Nathan's name, written in shaky handwriting on the front. Nathan held it for a long time without opening it. You don't have to read it, Ellen said. I know. Whatever's in there, it won't change anything. Garrett's dead. His daughter's in prison. It's over. Is it? Nathan turned the envelope over in his hands. My father spent 30 years fighting this man. My mother died because of him. Michael was kidnapped, and now with his final breath he wants to say something to me. It's probably manipulation, one last attempt to get inside your head. Probably. Nathan took a deep breath. But I need to know. I need to understand why he did what he did. Why he killed my parents. Why he destroyed so many lives. He opened the envelope. The letter was handwritten, the script uneven and weak. The writing of a dying man. Nathan Wilder, it began. If you're reading this, I'm dead. I've had a long time to think about what I want to say to you, and I've decided that I owe you the truth. Not an apology, I'm not sorry for what I did, but the truth at least. Nathan's jaw tightened. Even in death, Garrett was defiant. Your father was the only person who ever really threatened me. Not because of his evidence. Evidence can be destroyed, witnesses can be silenced. But Thomas Wilder had something I couldn't touch. He had conviction. He believed in justice so completely that nothing I did could shake him. I tried everything. I threatened his family. I killed his wife. I spent 30 years watching him, waiting for him to break. But he never did. He just kept gathering evidence, kept building his case, kept waiting for the moment when he could finally bring me down. Nathan felt tears burning in his eyes. His father, his stubborn, brave, impossible father. In the end, he won. Not because he was smarter than me, not because he was luckier. He won because he never gave up. He outlasted me through sheer force of will. I hated him for that. I hated him more than anyone I've ever known, but I also respected him. Thomas Wilder was the only worthy opponent I ever had. Nathan turned to the next page. I'm telling you this because I want you to understand what you inherited. Your father's conviction, his refusal to surrender, his willingness to sacrifice everything for what he believed in. I saw it in you at the trial. When you testified against me, when you looked me in the eye and told the jury what I'd done, you had his same expression, that same certainty, that same steel. You're his son, in every way that matters, and that means you're the only person on earth who could have beaten me. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't want your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that in the end, the better man won. Thomas Wilder won, and through you, his victory will last forever. The letter was signed simply Raymond Garrett. Nathan set it down with trembling hands. Ellen had been reading over his shoulder. He was trying to manipulate you, even at the end. Maybe. Nathan wiped his eyes. But he was also telling the truth. My father did win. Not just the legal battle, the moral battle. He stayed true to himself for 30 years. He never compromised, never surrendered. And neither did you. No. Nathan looked at the letter again. Neither did I. He walked to the fireplace and held the letter over the flames. For a long moment, he just stood there, watching the paper tremble in the heat. Then he pulled it back. You're not going to burn it, Ellen asked. No, I'm going to keep it. Nathan folded the letter carefully. Not because Garrett deserves to be remembered, but because my father does. This letter proves that Dad won, that everything he sacrificed meant something. Your father already knew that. I know, but I need to remember it. Every time I start to doubt. Every time I wonder if the pain was worth it. Nathan tucked the letter into his pocket. This is proof. Proof that good can triumph over evil. Proof that one person can make a difference. Ellen wrapped her arms around him. Your father would be so proud of you. I hope so. Nathan held her close. I really hope so. 2 weeks later, Nathan received another unexpected communication. This time, it was a phone call from Agent Reeves. Nathan, there's something you need to see. Can you come to the FBI field office in Helena? What is it? I'd rather show you in person. It's about your father. Nathan flew to Montana the next morning. Reeves met him at the airport looking older and grayer than Nathan remembered. Thanks for coming. I know this is unexpected. What's going on? We've been going through Garrett's possessions, things he accumulated over the decades that were stored in various safe deposit boxes around the country. Reeves led Nathan to a waiting car. Most of it was financial records, evidence of his crimes, but we found something else. Something about my father. Something your father created. Something Garrett kept hidden for 30 years. They drove to the FBI field office in silence. Nathan's mind raced with possibilities. What could his father have created that Garrett would keep hidden, and why was Reeves being so cryptic? The answer was waiting in a conference room. It was a videotape. Old format, the kind that required special equipment to play. The label on the side read, Thomas Wilder, Testimony, 1994. We found this in one of Garrett's safe deposit boxes, Reeves said. It's a video your father made 30 years ago, right after he witnessed Samuel Reeves's murder. He recorded his testimony in case anything happened to him. Nathan's heart pounded. My father made a video. Not just a video, a complete account of everything he saw, everything he knew, everything he planned to do. Reeves gestured to a TV and video player set up in the corner. We've already reviewed it, but I thought you should see it. Nathan sat down in front of the screen. His hands were shaking. Reeves pressed play. The image was grainy, the quality poor, but the face on the screen was unmistakable. Thomas Wilder, 30 years younger. Strong and vital, but with fear in his eyes. My name is Thomas Wilder, the recording began. I'm making this video on October 15th, 1994, 3 weeks after I witnessed Raymond Garrett murder Samuel Reeves at the Ridgemont lumber mill. Nathan leaned forward, drinking in every word. I'm recording this because I'm scared. Garrett has threatened my family, my wife, Margaret, my son, Nathan. He's made it clear that if I go to the police, if I tell anyone what I saw, they'll be killed. Thomas's voice cracked. I've decided to leave. Tonight, after Margaret and Nathan are asleep, I'm going to pack a bag and disappear. It's the only way I can think of to keep them safe. If Garrett's people are focused on me, they won't have any reason to hurt my family. I know this will destroy them. Margaret will think I abandoned her. Nathan will grow up believing his father was a coward who ran away. That thought kills me more than anything Garrett could do. Thomas wiped his eyes. But I'd rather have my son hate me than have him dead. I'd rather Margaret think I'm worthless than watch her murdered by Garrett's thugs. So I'm leaving, and I'm going to spend however long it takes to bring Raymond Garrett down. This video is my insurance. If anything happens to me, I want people to know the truth. I want them to know that Thomas Wilder didn't abandon his family. He sacrificed everything to protect them. Thomas looked directly at the camera. Nathan, if you are watching this someday, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you more than words can express. Everything I'm doing for you. Please try to understand. Please try to forgive me. The video went on for another hour. Thomas described the murder in detail, named witnesses, documented Garrett's threats, laid out his plan to gather evidence while staying hidden. By the end, Nathan was sobbing. He made this the night he left, Nathan whispered. He sat in front of a camera and poured out his heart, knowing I might never see it. Garrett found the video somehow, Reeves said. Our theory is he bribed someone your father trusted to hand it over. But instead of destroying it, he kept it. We think he was planning to use it as leverage someday, proof that Thomas knew more than he was admitting. Why didn't he use it? Because your father was too careful. He never gave Garrett an opening, and eventually the video became worthless, just a recording of a dead man confessing to things that couldn't be proven. Nathan stared at the frozen image of his father's face on the screen. Can I have a copy? It's already being prepared. The original has to stay in evidence, but we're making a duplicate for you. Reeves put a hand on Nathan's shoulder. Your father loved you, Nathan. This video proves it beyond any doubt. I know. Nathan's voice was barely audible. I've always known. I just didn't always believe it. He watched the video 3 more times before leaving the FBI office. Each viewing revealed something new. A gesture, an expression, a tremor in his father's voice that spoke of profound love and profound grief. Thomas Wilder hadn't abandoned his family. He'd sacrificed himself for them, and he'd spent 30 years in exile gathering evidence waiting for the chance to make things right. Nathan flew home with the copy of the video tucked carefully in his carry-on bag. That night, he gathered his family in the living room. Ellen, Michael, Sarah, the people he loved most in the world. There's something I need to show you. He played the video without explanation. Let them see Thomas Wilder's face, hear his voice, understand his pain. By the end, they were all crying. "Grandpa?" Sarah whispered. "He really loved us that much. He really did." Nathan wiped his eyes. "He gave up everything? His home, his family, his happiness to keep us safe. And he never stopped fighting even when it seemed hopeless." Michael was silent for a long moment. Then, "I want to go to the cabin." "What?" "I want to see where he lived, where he spent all those years." Michael's jaw was set. "I want to understand." Nathan looked at Ellen. She nodded. "We'll go together," Nathan said. "All of us. One last time." They flew to Montana the next week. The hike to the cabin was harder than Nathan remembered. His knees ached. His lungs burned. But his children were beside him, helping him over the rough spots, keeping him steady when the trail grew steep. The cabin was exactly as he'd left it. The photographs on the walls, the letters on the shelf, the spot near the cliff where he'd scattered his father's ashes. "This is incredible," Sarah breathed. "He built all of this himself. Every board, every nail. He carried the materials up that trail for years." Nathan touched the wall. "He did it for us, so we'd have a safe place if we ever needed it." Michael walked to the window and looked out at the mountains. He must have been so lonely. He was, but he never gave up hope. Nathan joined his son at the window. He believed that someday things would be different. Someday he'd be able to come home. But he never did. "No." Nathan's voice cracked. "He died still waiting." They spent the day at the cabin. Nathan showed them everything: the lockbox under the floorboards, the hidden compartment where Thomas had kept their photographs, the letters he'd written but never sent. As the sun began to set, Nathan gathered his family near the cliff edge. "I want to do something, a memorial of sorts." He pulled out the letter from Raymond Garrett. "This is the last thing Garrett ever wrote, a confession of sorts, an admission that my father won." "Are you going to burn it?" Ellen asked. "No, I'm going to bury it." Nathan knelt and dug a small hole in the rocky soil. "I'm going to bury it here at the cabin where my father spent his life fighting for justice, so that for all eternity Raymond Garrett's words will be trapped in the place he could never conquer." He placed the letter in the hole and covered it with dirt and stones. "It's done," he said, standing. "Garrett's gone, his letter is buried, and my father's legacy lives on." Sarah stepped forward. "Can I say something?" "Of course." Sarah cleared her throat. "I never met Grandpa Thomas. I only know him through stories and photographs and videos. But I want him to know wherever he is that he succeeded. He protected his family. He brought down a monster. He proved that one person can make a difference." She wiped her eyes. "I'm going to be a doctor because of him. Because he showed me that sacrifice means something. That fighting for what's right is always worth it, even when it costs you everything." Michael spoke next. "I used to wonder why Grandpa left. Why he didn't just go to the police and let them handle it. But now I understand. The system was broken. Garrett had corrupted everything. The only way to fight him was to become invisible, to gather evidence from the shadows until there was so much that no one could ignore it." He looked at Nathan. "That's what you did too, Dad. When Victoria came after us, you didn't run to the FBI and hope they'd protect us. You took action. You rescued me yourself. You finished what Grandpa started." Nathan felt tears streaming down his face. Ellen put her arm around him. "Your father would be so proud, Nathan, of all of us, of what we've become." "I know." Nathan looked out at the mountains painted gold by the setting sun. "I can feel him here, watching us, smiling." They stayed until the stars came out. Then one by one they said their goodbyes. Sarah went first, pressing her hand against the cabin wall. "Thank you, Grandpa, for everything." Michael followed, placing a stone on the spot where Thomas's ashes had been scattered. "Rest easy, you've earned it." Ellen kissed her fingers and touched the doorframe. We'll take care of him. Your son, your grandchildren, your legacy. We'll keep it safe." Finally, Nathan stood alone at the cliff edge. "I spent 30 years hating you," he said to the darkness. 30 years believing you'd abandoned us. And then I learned the truth, and everything changed." He took a deep breath. "You were a hero, Dad, not because you were perfect, not because you always made the right choices, but because you never stopped fighting, never stopped believing, never stopped loving us even when we couldn't love you back." The wind picked up rustling through the pines. "I forgive you for leaving, for the years of silence, for all the pain we both went through." Nathan's voice broke. "And I hope you can forgive me, for the anger, for the resentment, for taking so long to understand." He pulled something from his pocket, the photograph that had been hidden behind the others in Thomas's house. Nathan at 18, graduating high school, not knowing that his father was watching from somewhere nearby. "I'm keeping this," Nathan said, "not in a hidden drawer or a secret compartment. I'm keeping it where I can see it every day, so I never forget who you were and what you sacrificed." He stood there for a long time, looking up at the stars. Then he walked back to his family, and together they descended the mountain. 1 year later, Nathan published a book. He called it The Mountain Man, A Son's Search for His Father's Truth. It told the whole story, the murder Thomas witnessed, his 30 years in exile, the evidence he gathered, the trials that brought Raymond Garrett and his network to justice. The book became a bestseller. It was translated into 20 languages. A documentary was made, a movie was optioned, but none of that mattered to Nathan. What mattered was the letters he received. Hundreds of them from people all over the world who'd read his father's story and been moved. A woman in Brazil whose husband had been killed by corrupt officials wrote to say that Thomas's story had inspired her to keep fighting for justice. A man in Japan whose family had been destroyed by organized crime wrote to say that Thomas's 30 years of patience had given him hope. A teenager in America who'd lost her father to violence wrote to say that Thomas's love for his son had shown her what real sacrifice looked like. Nathan read every letter, responded to as many as he could. His father's story was touching people in ways neither of them could have imagined. On the first anniversary of the book's publication, Nathan returned to the cabin one final time. He went alone. This was between him and his father. The cabin looked exactly as he remembered. The mountains stretched endlessly in every direction. The wind whispered through the pines like a voice from the past. Nathan sat at the cliff edge and pulled out his phone. "Hi, Dad," he said, as if leaving a voicemail. "I wanted to give you an update." He smiled through his tears. "The book is doing well. People are reading your story. They're learning about what you did, what you sacrificed. You're inspiring people, Dad. People you never met in places you never went. Your life meant something. Your sacrifice meant something." He looked out at the mountains. "Michael got married last month. Beautiful ceremony. His wife is wonderful. You would have loved her. They're talking about having kids, which means I might be a grandfather soon. Can you imagine little Thomas Wilders running around carrying on the family name?" Sarah finished her residency. She's a full-fledged doctor now, working at a hospital in Chicago, saving lives every day. She says she thinks of you whenever she has a difficult case. Says she channels your determination. Ellen and I celebrated our 25th anniversary last spring. Renewed our vows on the same beach where we got married. She's the best thing that ever happened to me, Dad. I wish you could have known her better. I wish you could have been there for all of it." Nathan's voice cracked. "I miss you. Every day I miss you. Not the idea of you, not the memory you. The real person who loved his family so much that he gave up everything to protect them. But I don't hate you anymore. I don't resent you. I understand now. I understand that love sometimes looks like absence, that protection sometimes looks like abandonment, that the greatest sacrifice a parent can make is to be hated by their child so that child can live." He stood and walked to the cabin door. "I'm not coming back here after today. Not because I don't want to, but because I don't need to. You're not in this cabin, Dad. You're not in these mountains. You're in my heart. You're in my children. You're in every person who reads your story and finds the courage to fight for what's right." Nathan touched the doorframe one last time. "Rest now. You've earned it. The fight is over. The battle is won. And your legacy, your real legacy, the one you built through 30 years of sacrifice, will live forever." He turned and walked down the trail without looking back. The mountains watched him go silent and eternal. The wind carried his words up to the peaks where Thomas Wilder's spirit still lingered. And somewhere in that vast wilderness, a father smiled at his son for the last time. Nathan Wilder arrived home 3 days later. Ellen was waiting on the porch, a cup of coffee in her hands. She looked exactly as she had when they first met, beautiful, strong, full of quiet wisdom. How was it perfect? Nathan climbed the steps and kissed her. I said everything I needed to say. Are you at peace? Nathan considered the question. Peace was a complicated word. It implied an end to struggle, a resolution of conflict, a final quieting of the storms within. But Nathan had learned that peace wasn't the absence of pain. It was the presence of acceptance. The willingness to hold grief and gratitude together to honor the past while embracing the future. Yes, he said finally. I'm at peace. They sat together on the porch swing watching the sunset paint the Ohio sky in shades of orange and gold. Do you ever wonder what your father would think of all this? Ellen asked. The book, the documentary, the way his story has spread around the world? I don't wonder, I know. Nathan smiled. He'd be embarrassed by the attention. He'd insist that he wasn't a hero, just a man who did what needed to be done. He'd deflect the praise and change the subject. Sounds like someone else I know. Maybe. Nathan squeezed her hand. But he'd also be proud, not of the fame or the recognition of what it represents. His story is helping people, Ellen. It's giving them hope. It's showing them that one person can stand against injustice and win. That was always the point, wasn't it? Not revenge. Not even justice. Hope. Hope. Nathan nodded. My father spent 30 years in those mountains alone and afraid, but he never lost hope. He believed that someday, somehow the truth would come out. And it did. Maybe not the way he planned. Maybe not in his lifetime. But it did. The sun sank below the horizon. Stars began to appear one by one. What now? Ellen asked. Now we live. We love our children and spoil our grandchildren and grow old together. Nathan pulled her close. We honor my father's memory by being happy, by not wasting the time we have. That sounds perfect. It is perfect. Nathan looked up at the same stars his father had watched from his cabin in Montana. Everything he sacrificed led to this moment, this life, this family, this peace. He gave us everything. He gave us everything. Nathan's voice was steady now, filled with quiet certainty, and we're going to make it count. They sat on the porch until the night grew cold and the stars blazed in their millions. Then they went inside to their warm house and their good life and their children who called to check in and their friends who stopped by and their community that had become home. Nathan Wilder had spent most of his life believing his father was a coward and a deserter. He'd spent decades carrying anger and resentment, never knowing the truth of Thomas's sacrifice. But now he knew. Now he understood. Thomas Wilder had been a hero, not a perfect hero, not a flawless one, but a real hero, a man who saw evil and refused to look away, who knew the cost of fighting and paid it anyway, who loved his family so much that he let them hate him to keep them safe. And his son had inherited that heroism, had found the courage to face Raymond Garrett and his daughter, had risked everything to protect his own family, had finished the fight his father started 3 decades earlier. The story of Thomas Wilder would live on, in books and documentaries, in the hearts of people who heard it and found strength. In the family he'd sacrificed everything to protect. But most importantly, it would live on in Nathan, in the man he'd become, in the values he'd passed to his children, in the legacy of love and courage that would echo through generations yet to come. Some secrets don't die with the people we love. They wait in hidden places calling us back. And when we finally answer that call, when we finally discover the truth that was buried, we find that love never really ends. It transforms. It transcends. It becomes something eternal. Thomas Wilder built a cabin on a cliff to protect his son. His son found that cabin and discovered a hero. And that hero's story became a light that illuminated the darkness for countless others. That is the power of sacrifice. That is the meaning of legacy. That is the truth of love. Nathan Wilder lived for another 22 years. He watched his grandchildren grow. He held Ellen's hand until her final breath. He told his father's story to everyone who would listen. And when his own time came, he faced it without fear, because he knew where he was going. He was going home, to the mountains, to the cabin, to the father who had been waiting for him all along. Some secrets don't die with the people we love. Neither does love itself. It lives forever in the hearts of those who remember. And Thomas Wilder will be remembered, not as a man who abandoned his family, but as a man who loved them enough to let them go. Not as a coward who ran from danger, but as a warrior who fought in silence for 30 years. Not as a failure who never came home, but as a hero whose home was always in his heart. This is his story. This is his truth. This is his legacy, and it will never be forgotten.